Father, we thank you even for those that are yet to join. We pray that you will quicken even their connection, that they may come and join us so that we may move together. We thank you, bless you, because we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. So I would like us to move on. You're going to just share the program that we have. Yagan, please share the program.
The program.
Okay, thank you very much, Yagon. And so this morning we begin with we've already started with a word of prayer. So the program runs supposed to run from 9 o'clock, where I'm going to give you an overview, my introductions, and the objectives of this exercise. And then we shall have some remarks from the Director General, Nakosti. And that will be followed by a progress on the implementation of the indicator. Scroll up, Yvonne. I hope people can hear me well. And then we'll open the meeting up for question and answer. And with us, we have a team of members of the STI mainstreaming team from Nakosti. They'll be able to take your questions and we'll be able to respond to them. I want to encourage members to use the Q&A for the purpose of questions. Don't use a chat. So please, let's use the Q&A. That's what we're going to use today. So avoid using the chat and let's use the Q&A. And of course, we now have about 205 participants that have joined in. And I would like to take you through the objectives. I hope you're gone. I can be able to share. Can I?
Sure, you can.
Okay. Let me try that. Okay. Is it there? Are you able to see it?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Is it clear? Maybe I put it in presentation mode. Okay. So let's begin by giving you again just a brief introduction of who we are about Nakosti, so that we can, for the sake of some of the ones that are new today, that the National Commission for Science, Technology and Innovation, which we are calling Nakosti, is established by the Science, Technology and Innovation Act of 2013. And we've been in existence since 1977, when we existed under an old act, the STI Act, the Science and Technology Act, Cap 250 of the laws of Kenya. Just to reiterate that that act has since been repealed, and therefore we no longer quote the Cap 250, but we use the Science, Technology and Innovation Act of 2013. So this same act has also established two other institutions. So we're talking about three institutions, Nakosti. Then the other institutions we have is the National Research Fund and the Kenya National Innovation Agency. Again, just to inform the participants, because many of them seem to confuse, but we are all established under the same act. Our work is to mandate, to regulate and assure quality in science, technology, and innovation, and to advise government on matters that are related thereto. And the Act provides 17 functions, of course, which we can summarize them into 4 major groups: the regulatory, advisory, promotion, as well as coordination. And all these are aimed at harnessing and maximizing the benefits of STI for prosperity, security, health, environmental quality, and global competitiveness, and all in the interest of the Kenyans. That is our vision: knowledge-based economy. Our mission: to facilitate quality in research, science, technology, and innovation sector through regulation, promotion, and provision of advisory services. And of course, we have our core values, which are customer focus, professionalism, teamwork, integrity, and leadership. Structurally, that is how we appear: board of directors. Then we have a director general, Professor Walter Oyawa. Then we have 3 directorates: the Directorate of Corporate Services, then the Directorate of Research Accreditation and Quality Assurance, and then the Directorate of Scheduled Sciences. And some people wonder what the scheduled sciences are. Just to let you know that when you look at the Science, Technology, and Innovation Act, at the end of that act, it provides 6 categories of sciences, so they appear within a second schedule. So every science can actually fall into one. It should be able to fall into one of the 6 categories that are there, and therefore NACOST is structured along those lines. Now let's focus more now on performance contracting, and just to let you know that the government has used the performance contracting PC as a key accountability tool in its endeavor to improve service delivery in the public service. And that has been happening since 2003. And of course, performance contracting is part of the broader public sector reforms that are aimed at improving efficiency and effectiveness in the management of the public service. And in this 2021 and 2022, the Ministry of Public Service and Gender did introduce STI mainstreaming indicator in the performance contracting guidelines. If you go to the guidelines, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. And following that, of course, NACOST then prepared the necessary documents and uploaded them on the website. And these documents are to guide the MDS in implementing the indicator as per the PC guidelines. And the implementation of this indicator is to be coordinated by NACOST. And it requires that all MDS to mainstream STI into their operations, programs, and projects. That is in line with the provisions and the aspirations of the Act. A little bit more on this indicator, just to remind ourselves. I know we have had this training before, a number of you, but we need to refresh so that as we go on to the next session, then we are very clear in our minds. First thing that the MDS are supposed to do is to appoint STI focal person and champions to coordinate the STI mainstreaming. The focal person is supposed to be one, and the champions can be many depending on the size of the organization. And we've given guidelines, which you can find them again on our website, that gives the very specific responsibilities of, say, the focal person as well as the champion. The second thing that the MDAs are supposed to do is to develop an STI strategy using the template that is provided by NACOST. And when you look at that, it attracts a score of about 30%. And then thereafter, C is to implement the STI strategy by undertaking the following interventions, and 4 interventions are brought out clearly. The first intervention deals with to document research programs, projects, and funding sources, and that attracts 10% score. Ensure an annual budgetary allocation of R&D of at least 2% of the total allocated budget. Then to undertake research and technology innovation, technology transfer, commercialization, that attracts 35%. And then the final one is to disseminate research findings and technology innovations through conferences, workshops, and so on, and that attracts 15%. So when you add those points, then you should be able to get 100% score. Let me look at what has NACOSTI done so far since we started this journey. And I want to make reference to the PC guidelines that require specialized agencies. It says that they shall communicate details of performance indicator, specific reporting guidelines, and informations directly to the MDAs, as well as posting the information on their official websites, in addition to any other supporting literature. So that is gotten directly from the guidelines, and is a responsibility of all the specialized agencies. So NACOSTI is not exceptional, it's just part of the other agencies. And the second thing they're supposed to do is the timelines for submission of the reports should be within 15 days after the end of a quarter for quarterly performance reports, and within another 15 days after the end of the contract period for the annual performance report. Again, that we derive directly from the PC guidelines. So that being the case, so what specifically have we done or have we achieved so far? As NACOSTI, we have prepared all the requisite documents and uploaded the same on our website, www.nacosti.go.ke. If you go there on the first page, we made sure that it appears on the first page, performance contracting, so that you can catch the eye of those visiting the website. And then the other thing that we've done is to build capacity for the MDAs. And in this respect, we have conducted 2 virtual trainings for STI focal persons as well as champions that took place between 13th and 17th of September in 2021. The second virtual training was held on the 21st and 22nd of October 2021. And apart from that, we had a face-to-face training session that was a 4-day training from 14th to 17th December 2021. Again, a number of you, I'm sure, did participate. We'll be giving you a little bit more details on that in my next presentation. Further to that, as NACOSTI, we have also provided technical support to MDAs that have requested for the same. We have had to organize individual trainings for specific MDAs on request. Some of them have requested us, and I'm sure some are already logged in this meeting, and they will attest the fact that they have had to invite us. We have sent people 1 or 2 days or 3 days, or depending what they want to be trained on. We have also provided assistance in the development of the STI strategies as well as IP policies, okay? And conducting, of course, virtual trainings for focal persons, again, just online, maybe 1 or 2 days, again, for those institutions that have requested. We have also done that. Others have requested us to sensitize their senior staff just to be able to appreciate this performance indicator. on STI mainstreaming. Again, we have done that with a number of institutions where they have invited us for an hour or two, just to be able to shed some light to some of the senior staff in the organizations. So therefore, then that brings me to the last part of this session. Therefore, what is the objective of this session? Why are we here today? We are here because overall objective is to, for this question and other session, is to provide the MDAs with a forum for interaction on the implementation and reporting of the STI mainstreaming indicator for the financial year 2021 and 2022. Specifically, we want to provide some feedback on the midterm review of MDAs on STI mainstreaming indicator, and secondly, to provide that forum for seeking clarifications, suggestions, and inputs with regard to the STI mainstreaming. So that is why we are here today, just to give you opportunity to have a feel of how is it looking like, and so on. We are live to the fact that now this is the last quarter, and before the this end of this quarter, we hope that this kind of interaction will help you to be able to maybe intervene in the areas that perhaps you felt you didn't do very well, so that by the end of the year, then you should have done what is expected of you. And just again to let you know that we are available for you, and we would like to support you as much as we can, so that we are able to implement this indicator in a manner that all of us shall be satisfied. That brings me to the end of this presentation this morning. And just again to introduce part of the team that from NACOSTI that is there. And perhaps if people are there, then they can be able to just to be able to know who they are, because they'll be instrumental in responding to some of these questions that perhaps you have. So my name is Boniface Wanyama. I am Acting Director for Research Accreditation and Quality Assurance at NACOSTI. And besides that, I'm the chair of the steering committee that is responsible for ensuring that there is smooth implementation of this STI mainstreaming indicator. We have a team of, we are 10 of us, and if my other colleagues are there, you can just, I hope you have the access, you can unmute, you can be able to say your name so that people can be able to appreciate the team that is here. So my colleagues who are here, please, I give you an opportunity to do so. Is Cyrus logged in? Mr. Yegon, are you there?
Good morning. My name is Dennis Yegon.
Thank you, Yegon.
Also part of this steering committee.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Boniface.
Yes, next, do you have Rolex?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, just introduce yourself again.
My name is Rolex Opondo. I'm an STI desk officer and also a member of the STI mainstreaming committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Amiani. I'm an STI desk officer. Thank you.
Others, You're gone? Okay. Rolex has already introduced himself. And is there any other person who is joined or they're not able to unmute?
Good morning, if you can hear me.
Very well.
My name is Millicent Okuku. I'm a secretary to the committee.
Thank you. Javan, is Javan there?
Yes, Chair. Good morning, everyone. My name is Javan. I'm a resource person to the committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Javan. Who else is there? Okay, so we'll then move on. Rolex, is the DG able to join?
He had informed me he has joined.
He's joined, okay. Are you able to see him online? DG, are you there? Professor Yao, are you there? Okay, maybe if you can look for him once he's on board, then we can be able to give him an opportunity to welcome the participants. And as he does that, mine is again to thank all the participants for being able to join this meeting. I take note that we already have 334 participants that are on board. Again, we want to appreciate all of you. I had already mentioned that let's use the Q&A if you have to ask for some questions. We are preferring to use the Q&A icon that you can be able to see there so that we are able to respond. And again, we would encourage you to begin if you have any questions that you'd like to ask. Please do so in Q&A, and then we'll be getting opportunities to be able to begin to respond to some of the comments. And then others, we will enable you to, if you have something that you want to say, then we'll also enable you to unmute and be able to speak out or raise your questions. So as we wait for DG, let's just find out, Professor, let me just find out if he's available to start now. So as we wait the DG to join, I think I can begin with my other presentation. When he comes in, we'll be able to stop and give him the opportunity to say his remarks. Then I'll proceed. Yagon again, am I able to share? So we, can you see the screen again?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So we had already looked at the program for the day. We will wait when he comes. So we are at some minutes to 10 before we have our health break. Just a reflection again on the midterm review report. How does it look like? One, just again to reiterate the role of the specialized agency as per the performance guidelines 2021-2022. When you look at section, it's getting disrupted a bit. Okay. When you look at section 3G, outlines the role of and responsibilities of specialized agencies as to one, develop relevant performance indicators and sub-indicators for the implementation by the MDAs, and two is to receive, analyze, and provide feedback on relevant performance indicators within 15 days from the date of submission. I noticed that the Director General has actually joined, and since I was just beginning this presentation, I think it's better that I welcome him so that he can also welcome this team, and then we can proceed with the rest of the activities for the day. Professor Walter Oyawa, I can see you've joined. And thank you very much for finding time to join us. I know you have had a very busy time this morning. And
yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you very well.
Okay.
And just to welcome you on to this meeting. And just to let you know that we have about 342 participants that have already joined in. And we had reached at a point where you can welcome them to this meeting. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you very much, Boniface. Good morning to all of us. Mine is to thank you very much for finding some time to join this question and answer session. I'm seeing there are about 345 now of us. That's a fairly high, fairly high number. And it would imply most of the MDAs are part of us. That also is a demonstration that we are getting into this thing called STI mainstreaming. And as we have shared with most of you during our other sessions, is that it's very difficult to find an organization which is not doing any of the 3 or the 4 key aspects of STI. And that one is when we talk of research systems, the Act defines this research systems as comprising research, science, technology, and innovation. It is not just research. Research is just a component of the entire STI ecosystem. And therefore, you are here because you deserve to be here. You must be involved in some innovation one way or another. There are those who are involved in deep research, the universities and research institutions. So that's the first point I just want to clarify, that in modern times, matters of science and technology, innovation have become almost like aspects of national security, aspects of public safety, aspects of our environment, and then later on it becomes aspects of, it has a direct bearing on socioeconomic development. countries that have been there before us on these matters, and you can Google this for free, like the US, when they were developing their STI ecosystem, the focus was on national security. And once you have that national security, the other elements just flow. The economy flows, the other aspects flow. So we also want to bring it from that element in terms of public safety, especially on matters COVID, which have come in, and the physical way of mitigating against COVID turns out to be science, technology, and innovation. I also just want to inform you I'm from a distant land, just landed this morning. That's why I couldn't join you. They just landed this morning at around 6:30 from one of the conventions, the Biological Weapons Convention. I thought this would be of interest. Boniface must have mentioned our work. We are mainly and largely a regulator. Then the Act also allows us to promote. The Act allows us to give advisories. The Act allows us to coordinate. We actually call it PRAC. I mean, the 4 aspects of the 17 functions that have been given: promote, regulate, advise, and coordinate. Those are the 4 aspects that we are mandated to do. Due to staffing issues and understaffing, I think we have not been fully able to realize a good number of them, but we are on track now. That's why we are trying to move as fast as we can to do this. So one of the functions actually is that we are a focal point of a number of Kenya's international obligations. One of them is the Biological Weapons Convention, which was holding as a key meeting in Geneva for about a week or so. And in this one, we led the largest ever delegation to Geneva, comprising 17 members of delegation from Kenya. And this included 4 CEOs, plus myself, 5 CEOs. We had, I just want to say, the diversity that now that you're here, you need to know what we have to offer. Apart from that STI mainstreaming, for those of you on board, we'll be telling you that these opportunities and activities happening. So we send out letters to invite stakeholders. Not all this time, I think it was depending on, because of the convention, we sent to research institutions, we sent to universities, we sent to the MDS, mostly involved in the security sector. And I can tell you we had a representative from Laikipia University, we had the CEO Calro, the CEO Carefree, the CEO National Museums of Kenya, the CEO National Safety Authority, and there were even 2 VCs who were to come but were time barred at the last minute. So these are opportunities we avail. Why do you go for these conventions? There are a lot of opportunities there. One of the things that we are bringing back home is Kenya is being included, and you can Google that, in the Global Partnership Signature Initiative on just the peaceful use of biology, the peaceful use of biotechnology. For those of you in that area, I think this would be of great interest. So that's a take home, and I think in a week's time, again, I'll be required to be in London now to negotiate what are the stakes of it. This is a big project funded by 31 big countries, the UK, Canada, US, and so forth, and it's coming through the Africa CDC. It's coming through the Africa CDC, and we need to position ourselves, and that's why as NACOSTI, when we get these opportunities, we always pass it on to you. So as part of that STI mainstreaming, those are some of the things that we offer. We also just want to very quickly inform you that in a similar one, we are also the national focal point for the International Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology. And we were able to successfully lobby for one of our institutions to host the Regional Research Center of ICGEB. And we put out a bid, again, something last year that was for research institutions and universities. 7 universities competed, 3 were shortlisted. They have finally selected or recommended one, that is Egerton University. And I think this was done very fairly by the international review team. It was open, you show the equipment, show the leadership, and it was done. The VCs were there to really watch for their case. The shortlisted institutions were Egerton, KU, and JKUAT. The international team was very surprised to see the kind of equipment. They didn't expect the kind of equipment that they saw on the ground, whether at KU, whether at JKUAT, whether at Egerton universities. So these are some of the things we are rolling, and I think next month there's a meeting. The governing board will meet to decide or to ratify Egerton to host that regional research center. You can imagine what that center will be, because it is the second one. The only other place which has it is India. So this will be the second one, and it capture the region, starting with East Africa and proceeding. So for those of you in that area, again, that is very important. We are also the focal point, I think, of the Africa Regional Agreement, focusing on peaceful use of nuclear technology. And for those in the know-how, I think we have been sending out documents, I think literally everywhere, mostly to your CEOs, but I've requested our team to be sending to the STI focal points and champions. There are projects, and I have a list of almost over 30 projects which are being funded by the International Atomic Energy. There's one on climate change. Again, it's on peaceful use of atomic energy. So we have put out the call. There are over 30 projects right now being coordinated by PIs, or we call them project counterparts in various institutions. But of course, they report to NACOSTI. So those are opportunities that are there when you're doing STM and streaming, when we are also asking you to make efforts to have that 2% of your budget for not just research, but for RSTI. We are also working on the other side to avail opportunities that are there. And they are there, by the way. There's a lot of funds. The UK, following COVID, has allocated a lot of funds, and we need to tap into it, but intelligently or strategically, in a way that they do not dictate so much to us. Even as we tap into your funds, we also must have our own funds, and which means that the final outcome should also take interest of our own country. The US also, you can Google that. I think the Congress approved great sums of money, and a good number of these are coming, are likely to come to Africa, and that's why when in Geneva, we met a number of delegations, EU, US, UK, Canada, and each one of them have a program. And those of you in the biosecurity sector, we are hoping that the experts can proceed and form the biosecurity profession for the first time. That's what I had in Geneva. Masinde Muliro University has been leading this process, and we want now to bring it on board to all of us so that the moment the move starts, they also have a backing. Without the backing from like NACOSTI, NRF, and the rest, it becomes very difficult to achieve that. So that is just in a nutshell to tell you that in addition to what you're doing as STM mainstreaming, availing these opportunities as they come. Boniface, I think, will be sending to the CEOs or heads of institutions, but also copied. Either we make blind copy to the STI focal points, and when you get it, please also circulate it in your own way, in your own forum. Opportunities are there, and I think that's why I'm now seeing 357 online just to make use of this. So it's a positive thing on the element of STM mainstreaming. You will find that even an institution is able now to allocate some funds to do not only research, but technology matters innovation, which are cross-cutting. So feel free in this session to ask for questions. I think I've answered a question which was being asked by a number of you. Are we really here? And I'm saying literally every MBA has some form of innovation. In fact, we say, if you are not contributing to, if you can convince us that you're not contributing to the Big Four agenda, and you're not contributing to Vision 2030, then I think that one, the Office of the President might consider you that you don't belong here. But if you are sure you're contributing to that, matters of STEM education is not really research, it's about education. And it's one of the functions of NACOSTI to advise on science, technology, right from kindergarten up to university level. So take time also to read our functions so that you're on the same note, where you're not doubting and asking questions, why are we really here? It's for your own good, and if you just stay a little bit longer, we get this report. We are going to have the reports we're giving us quarterly, and we hope they will be very standard. We hope they'll be very accurate. It's going to culminate in July, August, there in the annual report of the state of science, technology, innovation. And that report is going to go right up to the Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Education, and we believe it's going to trickle to the relevant offices. It will inform of the state where we say that this institution is doing very well on this and has these challenges. It will inform, especially for the universities when you are asking for funding, because we'll put a very strong case, or even research institutions, or even TVET institutions, if it's on innovation and patenting, which is a very key area now. That report will capture it from an independent perspective, which I think is more influential than when you yourself make a request for funding. This will be done, and there'll be peers, maybe from yourselves, to come and give us those advisories, prepare for us the report, and so forth. So as my colleague Boniface mentioned, I think I joined a little bit earlier, is that we, in the ST ecosystem, you have the Kenya. Please find out what Kenya does, so that you don't mistake it with NACOSTI. NACOSTI is a regulator, but works very closely with Kenya. Kenya is actually supposed to be our face at the end in terms of innovations that trickle to Wanjiku, the impact. If it doesn't, if you spend money on research, it doesn't trickle to Wanjiku, then again, you'll find yourself caught in a situation where you cannot justify. NRF is the funding agency. Unfortunately, because of the limited resources, their funding has been going down. We are all fighting for NRF to be able to be funded adequately so that they can fund you, and then they will fund everybody. Those of you from teachers training institutes were asking, how do we come in? You must be doing some element of research. You must be doing some element of STEM education, yes, which there's a strong focus on, even in the US and other places. There's a strong focus on STEM, but tampered with the social sciences, because you cannot succeed without combining. So it's what I'd mentioned before, what you call STEM. Just having said that, and I think most of this is a repetition, I just want to thank you very, very much. I hope we'll continue in this engagement. Let's put a strong case for this STI mainstreaming in all institutions. Let's be able to fight for or struggle for funding when Parliament resumes at some point, where you put like a Marshall Plan, a blueprint. South Africans do that. You put a blueprint, what is it? And then you must be aware also that the MTP4 is on course, and Boniface is representing us strongly in a course to be almost working very closely with the ministry, which is sharing the MTP4, and that's the Ministry of Education. So this is the time also to fight for priority areas. So we were saying, like, if you want to have biosecurity professionals, it needs to be captured in that document. So it's not just some 2-3 people or MDL deciding we want this to come into. It will also help you get approvals from the Commission for University Education very easily if you follow the structure. So this is a time when we have put the priorities, the proposed priorities on our website. Our board will soon be approving it. Please give your comments. We want the broader, don't go into the specific, we want the broader, like STEM education is one broad one. Having the next generation workforce in science and technology is another one. The other things like now COVID issues, the broader COVID issues, which is multi-sectoral, not just the medicine one. Medicine is the main player. I mean, the doctors are the main player, but the other aspects literally is multi-sectoral, even the social aspect. Yeah, should we continue now wearing the mask or not? Because we have been given that option, but it's up to you to check the environment each and every day. I think Europe, something is happening. The situation is worsening. They're talking of a different variant. So this is judgment which you have to make by yourself. So thank you very much. And with those few and many remarks, I just want to wish you well. And I think I was required to declare this question and answer session officially launched. And Boniface, back to you. If they are banning, because I'm joining other meeting, if they're banning the next 5 minutes, if they're banning very, very banning questions which you think are cross-cutting, then I would take them in the next 5 minutes. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you very much, DG, and for your presentation, which is coming very clear, and for also finding time to welcome the participants. I'm sure the remarks you have made are quite enriching, and a number of people may want to ask questions. Yagon, is there a way that we can allow 1 or 2 people who may wish to just raise questions to the DG directly, and then we'll revert back? There is anybody who would like, maybe you can indicate, then we can give you a chance to be able to ask that question. You can raise your hand. Is that possible? Before the DG leaves the meeting. Anyone? Participants, if there is anyone who would like to do that, perhaps some of you, I know you have sent quite a number of questions in the chat, and our team is already responding.
They can also use, I think the easier one is to use the chat so that I can pick some which can answer, the others I think you can answer.
Yeah.
And I doubt, have they been given the rights to speak? That's the other one. But Boniface, you can read, or your team can also select what is in the chat.
Rolex, are you there? You can read some questions.
Rolex is with me here. I'm using his laptop.
So you have muted him. Yes, maybe Yagon, can you read some few questions that you think the DG can respond to?
We have Lucy Ogon. Maybe we can give him an opportunity to ask a question.
Okay.
Okay.
Proceed.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yeah, I've listened to your presentation and the trip that you say.
Is it possible you might introduce yourself first? Your name and the institution.
Okay, good morning. My name is Dr. Lucio from Tomboya University College in Homa Bay. Yeah,
Proceed.
and yes, I've listened to your presentation, DG, and all of them sound very, very scientific. Is there an opportunity for the artists to also plunge into the areas that you have presented? Can there be multidisciplinary participation in the biosafety, everything? Yes.
Yes, others can. A good question. Actually, I try to answer the global approach. Even right internally now, those of you who were able to be shortlisted for the NRF funding, at the end of it, you are eventually forced to form a consortia.
Right.
And if you look at our national research priorities framework, which again is in our website, which is I think are delayed in the implementation due to other things, we're insisting on consortia. And if there's something we're acknowledging why we are converting, the other experts are talking no longer of STEM, but of STEAM. STEAM means STEAM, is that we cannot do away with the social scientists. And when you come to biosecurity, where I just came from, I found is actually cross-cutting. It has lawyers inside, it has the security teams inside, and naturally it will require the social scientists, because to do with the security of humanity is to do with the preempting situations of people converting the biological matters into weapons. And one of them is like the Madenge. One of the Madenge, the invasive plant, which is now spreading very fast. It was brought for good purposes many, many years ago. But the question, suppose somebody with some other mind decides to use it to extinguish people from a region or even countrywide. So that's a social issue. So yes, I can tell you the desired approach is multi-sectoral. And if there's a core to all these things, is the social scientists, because Wanjiku, the so-called Wanjiku is not generally a scientist. Actually, it's a social scientist. Yes, next.
Okay, thank you.
Any other?
We have also Albura.
Yes, could Albura take the floor?
Over to you, Mr. Albura.
Seem to be lost, eh?
You can also ask the question.
Check if they were muted.
Willy Rock, are you there?
Yes, I am in.
Okay.
Hello, good morning, Director, and thanks for your presentation. Also, for Egerton, again, we congratulate them. My question is to TVET institutions.
You are from?
My name is Willy. I'm the focal person, Rift Valley Institute of Science and Technology, Nakuru.
Great. Proceed, yes.
Yes, I'm asking a question in relation to TVET institutions that have now come into NACOSTIC. Normally, they have like the annual TVET fairs. And I feel that these are avenues that people are coming up with questions. Perhaps what is NACOSTIC doing to tap into them, and also to bring in the TVET, State Department of TVET to actively participate and champion on research. Because looking at NACOSTIC initially was more of universities, but now TVET are coming in well. Thank you.
Yeah, great, Willy, thank you for that. We would want actually to participate in that fair. I don't know who is organizing, the State Department or TVETA?
It is the CATI.
Oh, CATI, yes. We are working very closely with CATI, which is the latest event that we had CATI was the one first. Where did we have CATI leadership? Just the other day.
Yes, we have them in the National Scientific and Ethics Committee.
Ethics Committee.
It's a representation, yes.
So for your info, Willy, we are really trying the best that we can, despite the limitations. And initially there was that reluctance, and people were saying, no, we have been ignored for a long time. We don't think we fit. But what we are saying, if we are talking of research systems, please remember what I said. It is RSTI, and nobody can be a jack of all trades. So if you find very good researchers, most of the time they are not very good innovators. That's why the Kenya National Innovation Agency comes in. And I've said that. So when I've done my research, like we was working in the industry, to go and convert it into commercialize it or extend it is very difficult. You need another kind of people with a different kind of thinking. So we need each other. Our system needs all of them. So it's an initial focus on that. And I think that is a perception that came from the original institution, the NCST, National Council for Science and Technology. It must have focused on that. But now the Act created a cost which is broader. As I said, the understaffing has been an issue. But we have found a way now of getting resource persons from yourself. So you will be there. We want to participate in the fair. Boniface, remember, we get through to Kati. But we had a very successful, what you're calling multi-sector, the first STI multi-sector conference it was in August last year. And at that one, we invited the leadership, mostly the CEOs, for the buy-in. You know, when your bosses have the buy-in, it's very easy now for you to be even in this forum. If they don't have a buy-in, they won't even allow you to be here. So we had a very, very successful conference, and you can check our website for resolutions. And our chief guest in the closing ceremony was Dr. Narendran Raval, actually promised that he'll fund the next one, which we're hoping might be in August, September again. He's also the Chancellor of Egerton. He said we'll fund it at Egerton University. And we are anticipating a big display of TVET institutions, innovators, scientists. So we'll have research institutions, we'll have universities, whoever wants to be there. We want it to be a big celebration of what each one of us have, because we have been working in silos. And there are certain things which I think the TVETers are very good in converting now the idea into a reality which can be felt. So Rift Valley is a well-known institution, Rift Valley Institute of Technology, Institute, and others, please. So let's display. When it comes to the teachers training colleges who are wondering what their role, come and display the impact of STEM. If you have been to Calro, they have, like we call it a scientific one. There's a place where even for young children, you try to encourage them to know science, like teaching them things of drones. We are trying to start a program where we inculcate from the very early age. We try to bring our children know things like AI, which is now rolling the whole industrial revolution into the fifth industrial revolution. You can check that one again, because the fifth industrial revolution will be about AI. So this is the time to bring our youngsters from even kindergarten, primary. We need to have just a team, just brings that interest from the word go. Gender, our young girls. You know, girls, sometimes they're slow, but once they pick up, they occupy the space completely. So all of us have a role. Willy, I support you very strongly. Speak to Kati, proud of them that don't do this without Nakosti, invite them. And when we also invite you, because this time we're not only inviting the leadership, but inviting the entire sector, whoever wants to display. We were first with COVID, so we limited the numbers, but still very many people came. Yeah, we tried to have it online and people said we must come on the ground. So they came on the ground. So hoping that it will not be so bad and things will be open, we'd want to have tens and tens so that we can even invite the high schoolers, we can invite the industry. And Dr. Narendra actually promised that he will be our avenue to the industry. So let's try and see, you lose very little by trying. So let's try and see if this one works. Next one, the last two, I've seen there's a hand up. Oh, that was for Willy.
Yeah, maybe one last one. We have Noah.
Yes.
Kosgei.
Yes.
The floor is Noah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair.
Please.
Yeah, Noah Kosgei, National Cereals and Produce Board.
Yes.
I think we have interacted not once.
Yes.
I just want to find out whether the request we put, because I'm still seeing the same questions we were asking in terms of separating the MDS institutions of learning, research institutions, and the rest in the new the forthcoming PC cycle, because it actually accommodates the PC cycle that we are rolling it out is really confusing. And if you go through the questions and comments, I've seen members in this team, I think it is going back to the same issue that I raised before. Thank you.
like which examples of the questions do you feel we need? Because one of the things is the moment we go segregation, that this is the better, this is teaching, then the purpose will disappear. But I agree, the cloth cannot fit all. So, but let me know like an example of what you thought, like Serious Board will not, is not your mandate, not through what you feel comfortable about, because the government has given you a mandate. So what is the mandate that the government has given you, which you feel now, whatever you have will not fit that mandate?
What I would say, was suggesting, sir,
yes,
is that if you look at the PC, the cycle guidelines, for instance, for NTSA, they separated categories of MDAs as well as institutions, while they're actually mainstreaming the NTSA, road safety. Now, for NACOSTI, I was proposing or suggesting that if we can have that kind of categorization so that we have institutions categorized, if they are universities, if they are state corporations like us, if they are agricultural institutions or non-agricultural institutions, that categorization will give a proper guidelines when reporting the STI mainstreaming, and looking at how diverse it is. That kind of approach would be appropriate. I propose that we streamline that kind of approach so that NACOSTI can have categorization of institutions based on their mandates and class or the segments. Thank you.
I hear you. But Boniface, will you be able to answer that later on? But will the targets, separation, that is easy. Already we have them in our list. We know who are the research institutions, we know who are the universities. Will the targets change? I think that would be the main thing. If we are asking for 2% for research, does Serious Board not do any kind of research?
We do. We
have discussed with you this, and in the initially you didn't even think you were part of the sector.
Sure.
Now, will you not need, will the questions, because that one is already there actually, it's by nature, it's automatic. If you want us to segregate, we'll do, but will the targets change? Because some of those targets, like we always say, the one which doesn't fit you, we will know, you just indicate blank, this doesn't involve us. But one of the things I know is research. Any government institutions, when you do strategic plan, you undertake some SWOT analysis. It's research. Just go and Google the basic definition of research. It is any investigation, any investigation. Even when you're doing just the status report, what is the state of serious in the country? So research will be there for all of us. Technology, yeah? Science, research fits into science, which fits into technology, which fits into innovation. And we know there's administration which will excel in innovation. So if we look at even our classification, we'll ask the question, what are you doing? Are you doing research and whatever? So you'll pick what fits into you. But let me learn. We are willing to learn, and that's why we call for this one. Segregation, we can do. That one is very easy. But again, we'll go back to a situation where teachers' colleges will start saying, you know, this is the teachers' colleges, you know, this is in the university, you know, this in the, and in that one, again, that multi-sector approach is perspective. Let me hear more of that. Segregation is easy, but will the targets change? Javan, I think you'll speak, but let me hear Kosgei. This is a good discourse.
Thank you.
Kosgei, help us out on this. It's more we are trying to understand each other.
What I was trying to say, sir, is that if we segregate, then we will be more focused on probably core mandates with respect to institutions. But segregation doesn't mean allowing everybody to go into the direction you are looking at.
Yes, yes.
But we are looking at, because decades will remain the same. If allocation is 2%, that one is okay.
Yes.
But now, looking at now the reporting, let's say tool, the way we have been guided in the tool, probably maybe our area is the tool. And this tool should be actually segregated based on the organizations that are maybe, that is now where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Okay, I hear you, and I think you can continue the debate, and that you need to visit us as well. But that element for now, because breaking it through in the year, we can consider for the other year following discussion. That element of your uniqueness is captured in your STI strategy. Have you been able to form an STI strategy? Because in the STI strategy, if you look at the way, even the template we gave, it allows you to focus to choose what fits you. Koski, have you been able to do the strategy? That's where you find like a teaching, the teaching colleges will say for us, our priorities will be STEM education. Another one, university will come and say our priority is actually pure research. Another one, so in the strategy, it will actually segregate you. Boniface, you can help me on that one. It segregates so that you focus on your core mandate, which should speak to the higher organ, which is the STI policy, which is a government document. And so, Boniface, help me on that one.
I agree with you, Chair. And I even saw one comment, somebody saying is agreeing with the idea of not to segregate. But nonetheless, what you're saying is that when you look at the STI strategy, and we have had to have some interactions with a number of institutions, it actually brings out exactly what you do as an institution. And that is where now you put in things that are relevant to you. It's not wholesale. I mean, when you look at issues, say, of funding, for example, we realize that 2%, which we had put, is really barely minimum for institutions that are not purely research. I would be surprised or I would be sad if I found, say, Cambridge, which is a research institution, having 2%, because their pure mandate, their core mandate is research. So we are expecting them to have even 90, 95% for it, because we are looking at operations budget for that. And but an institution like the one that is not a pure research institution, 2%, I think, is ideal to be able to drive the processes and the mandate of that organization. And again, we've been emphasizing the fact that we are moving towards evidence-based, data-based decision-making process. And I think that is where research becomes important, even for those institutions that may seem like they don't use research. And we have had the ones that who are here, and we have had some discussion with them, will agree with me that they initially had them thinking that they were not part of it. And they have now realized that this thing we should have even started it much earlier. I think that's what I want to say. But this discussion, I think, will continue. I think,
Koski, you brought a very important thing we can discuss further. But I would actually tell you that when you go to the strategy, you have been given an option where you choose what is exactly in your core mandate. And we say this 2% doesn't have to be hard money, hard cash set aside for research. But even when you take stuff for training, even I would imagine Koski now just participating in this STI forum and you organize, if it was maybe something funded, it was in Mombasa, that would be part of that 2% to my understanding, because training is a key aspect of STI. Capacity building is a key aspect. So just recheck that strategy, see what fits, see if the core mandate is not captured in that strategy, then now we can talk, we can add and say that this really fits, and not only your institution, but others. So let's continue discussing on this. The more we discuss, the more we also learn, the more you also learn. But I think you're on the right track. Just focus on the strategy. I'm sure it has the key point. Javan, you might want to add something. Javan Mwiti.
Thank you, Chair. I think you've been very sufficient and adequate in answering that question. Maybe just a simple addition, and probably is to look at the example that Kosgei has given in terms of NTSA. And of course, NTSA will segregate institutions, whether they are technical or not. But when you go to the reporting, the indicator is actually the same. The variation is very minimal, but the reporting too is the same. So I think, as you have said, the emphasis should be on the strategy, the STI strategy, differentiate yourself there. And again, as you said, if you look at the categorization that has been put in the website for all MDAs, there are those MDAs purely research, as it has been indicated, those who have a partial research and others. So institutions ideally know where they fall. But again, whether you are partially innate or full innate is clearly defined by your strategy that you develop. So I think the differentiating factor should be the strategy, because again, that's what you report on quarterly basis. You report based with activities that you have captured in your STI strategy. So if you manage that, it will work very well, because even if you have like NTSA, for example, they'll be talking of, like currently, they have those institutions that are very technical. The only difference will come probably when they are appointing those committees. There will be the committees who have more people, for example, in terms of actualization of what needs to be done, and reporting on the same, ideally falls on the same sheet. So basically, it's how you differentiate on STI strategy. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, yes. I just think once we go through, and I think a number of agencies are still at the formative stages of the strategy. Once we go through the strategy and everybody has theirs, then COSGA we can revisit it. But I think it's captured there. And because for us, we are focused on the end product at FISWA and JICU, would rather go there as one. Universities, research institutions, MDAs, TTCs, TVETA, and so forth. Then we learn, we are using this year to learn, then we can share that. But I strongly believe the strategy will capture the common mandate of literally everybody. There are, if you look at whether the STI policy, which was approved by the Cost Board, or even the priorities which are on our website, you will see the categorization of what we mean by STI or RSTI. It's a big, big, big area. And you'll find where the Serious Board falls in capacity building, coming up with a new product, weather storage. There are so many things that the Serious Board does, even advising farmers, actually engaging farmers, just engaging them to teach them to, that is something that when you do that report is an advisory, by the way. So sometimes people feel constrained because you are not aware that you're already doing too much. Like this 2%, when we now went, the agencies have gone to calculate, they discover they're way above it. Before it was like impossible. Kenya, we're in a bad economic situation. Where do we get the money? Then we say, can you calculate the equipment you just bought? And you find some agencies have bought a multi-billion equipment, which already shoots over that one. So let's just continue conversing, hearing each other, be open-minded, and to succeed. The last one, please, Boniface.
Probably we can take a question from Alex.
Okay. And a lady now, gender balance.
She haven't raised their hand. So
Alex, Prof, you are there. Yeah. Is it the Alex that I know?
Yes, it is. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, Prof. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
And this is really wonderful that we are beginning to interact at this level. I'm impressed at the developments that are taking place at Nacosti. Maybe my question, just to save on time, revolves around funding. And we've lately seen universities actually being starved of funds. And I think the general direction is that institutions should do, a kind of internal sourcing of funds. But to just begin is a big, big challenge. And I don't know where Nacosti could assist so that at least we come up with some seed funding that can help institutions now kind of stabilize the research portfolio as well as innovation. We were informed earlier on that there are three, should I call them institutions? We have Nacosti, we have Kenya, and we also have the NRF. And we do not know how you interact with the university funding board at this juncture, and whether perhaps you could put in a voice or two to them to actually look into this area of research and innovation, so that we are not constrained overally, but that component is substantively funded. Thank you, Chair and Bwana DJ.
Yes, thank you very much, Prof. Pass my regards to Professor Dual. Yeah, very important, and it's not only, I think literally all institutions, TVETA, MDAs, and of course you have been having our funds go down every year. So I don't know, there's some 20 million being taken. NRF, I think when I hear before I just came here, I think almost exactly 2 years ago. NRF initially had like a proposal for 8 billion, which came to 3 billion, which came to 800 million. Then last year and this year is like 200 million, which even to recruit their own staff is a challenge. And I think this is countrywide universities. I was even seeing, if I'm correct, in some news yesterday or the day before yesterday, that as they were watching for more funding, even now the match that you have is going to go down again due to limitations. Now, to me, I will talk of, is it the politics of science or science in politics? This is now personal. This is now just personal because I'm a board member of NRF, by the way, National Research Fund. and they're also a board member of NACOSTI, the CEO there. It's more of the styles, which has to come from individual, how you do these things. If you write to government that you see, I'm entitled to this, when there's money, you will get. But when there's limited money, the government will always go for priorities. So the question is, how do you make what you're doing a priority? That is the question. Before it was automatic. There's some funds, National Treasury, this is allocated to this university, this is allocated to the vet institution, this is allocated to an MDA, even where COSGE is coming from. Then the funds have shrunk. So imagine now you're even sitting at that decision making at the Treasury and you have to make a decision. What would you check? You would check who is impacting and who is visible in the country. And this is what I was telling universities, and I will shout loud, that the university needs to link up with TVETA, because until those researches you are doing end up to feed Wanjiku or take care of Wanjiku, then the question is, why would they give us more money? Because I was in a meeting, we put up actually, as the board of NRF, they even met a parliamentary committee, was very supportive. That's lobbying now, and you can see we are lobbying collectively. That's how we work. And we went somewhere where we were just told, we hear you, you need this money, but the Ministry of Education has its own envelope. You have a standard envelope. In fact, we don't even have enough for some institutions. So how would we take, some institutions have nothing. They're just starting off. So the question is, how would you even take the little and give to research? You'll do that if you do the politics of science, where you'll be able to show that if you give me this money, I will end up with a vaccine at the end. If you give me this money, we'll end up with a car at the end. If you give me this money, you will end up with something at the end. That's why the multi-sector approach is literally mandatory. So that time when I will be given a research fund as Oyawa, and I research, publish, get promoted, and keep quiet, it seems to have been gone. That one I have to now, actually is being left for us to look for it independently. So of course, the first thing that we do, we avail opportunities. We, as I said, I don't know whether you're logged in, Prof. We are the focal point of a number of international agencies. So they have some funding, like ICG, EB. There are some who are funded. There are people apply for research grants. Even now they've applied. The shortlisting is done by expert team from NACOSTI. Egerton, we put out a call. They're going to be a regional research center. AFRA, almost over 30 projects funded. There are people flying in and out, going to Vienna, going to South Africa as I'm speaking. So those ones will keep on availing to you, the opportunities that are there. But that's not enough. That is not enough. So I would imagine that through this STI mainstreaming, we can put up a strong blueprint and a strong case that we need funding for research and technology, and the outcome will be, whether it's an aeroplane, whether it's a car, whether it's a vaccine, whether it's, that is what I would imagine the key decision makers want to hear. So whoever is ready to say that I'm certain if we get funding, we'll end up with this, we can work together. But if it's the normal funding, because it's very difficult. The resources are limited, and whoever gets the fund is the one who's able to, like Kemri came up with, I think, an anti-malaria drug. Naturally, when they go and ask for another fund, they will get, and Kemri is ranked very highly. I always say in the current Shimago, Kemri is our top institution, followed by ILRI, followed by Aga Khan University, which is coming out very strongly. So if you are able to impact Wanjiku, I'm sure somebody will hear you. But if you're going to do a number of things, which I used to do at the university, I used to do at the research institution, I used to do in the MDA, where I'm saying that, I was promised 500 million. It's very challenging. And universities are going through a very difficult situation. Prof, I don't know whether you have an answer. Can we have something where we're able to say we are going to deliver the world to Wanjiku?
Thank you, DJ. I think we will now have to realign ourselves into that thinking. And I think the more we interact, I think universities now will be more sensitized on the kind of research that needs to be fronted. Thank you very much for your answer.
Yes, so our national research priorities, which is a document which was approved by the Cabinet Secretary, talks of that. So when you form a consortia, is a consortia on a product or a service which is coming at the end. So like now the priority is like a vaccine. So there's already a research consortia on traditional medicine, which possibly can help in COVID, which is among the few that is funded by the little money that NRF has. think the lead, the principal investigator is Professor Orwa from Cambridge. So let us reorient ourselves. If we are talking of STEM education, like for the technical institutions, TVET, and the teachers training colleges, we have to demonstrate very clearly that these scientists that come from TVET institutions are the ones who will lead into those vaccine development and making of the Kenyan car and whatever, and tuk-tuk or whatever it is. The language has to change. There has to be, in fact, there's a course which we are trying to see if we can partner with, just the politics of science. That scientists have to change to put their language in a way that Wanjiku will understand. Yeah. Based on that, Boniface, I hope we are through.
Sure, I think we can. We thank you and have a short health break.
You can handle the rest, but I'm seeing the numbers have gone very high to 375. I'm really pleading with all of us. This target belongs to us, and you can strategically take advantage of it to seek so many things in addition to that we will. We are also trying it for the first time, so we are learning. So where we make mistakes, please just hear us out. Let us learn as you also learn. As I said, a good number. If you ask like the betting control, I'll give you an example. And I don't know whether they're there, but they allow me to use the example. They asked, what does betting control board have? We do betting. What does betting do with STI? And we, as I told you, we went into the enabling act. And right inside there was, before the license, they will investigate. Then I asked them, go and check the dictionary, what research is. It's about investigating. So you must, and then I got a paper from one of their peers, which talked of betting and whatever is STI based, and that ended up the debate. So we are sharing, yeah, we are sharing. So thank you, Boniface. Answer as much as you can. For some, invite them to Nakosti. At least we can afford a cup of tea in our building. So we have a one-on-one with their teams, and indeed we have had various teams coming. We also thank those who have gone out of their way to invite our team of experts to visit them on the strategy. We are available. I think we are available for you. Thank you, Boniface. Back to you.
Thank you very much, DG, and thank you very much, everybody. We'll have just a health break briefly for 5 minutes. It's now 10:39. I think at 10:45 we resume, just to allow you to have a small break. So we suspend for just about 5 minutes. Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think it is 10:45. Yegon, would you allow me to share my screen?
Can you share?
Okay. So before we allowed the DG to make his presentation, I just made the presentation. I started to make this second part of the presentation to share with you a few thoughts concerning what we found out in the mid-term review. And I said that the role of the specialized agency, according to the performance contracting guidelines for 2021-2022, under Section 3G, outlines the roles and responsibilities of specialized agencies. And I mentioned that one is to develop relevant performance indicators and submit sub-indicators for implementation by the MDS. Two, to receive, to analyze, and to provide feedback to the relevant performance indicators within 15 days from the date of submission. And another one is to provide technical support to MDS in the implementation of the relevant performance indicators, including capacity building. Four is to assess the annual performance of MDS for relevant performance indicators and communicate the results of each MDA. And in addition, the agencies are required to submit a complete list together with the scores after the final analysis to the Performance Contracting Secretariat. That is what is expected of the MDS. And now to come back to what have we done as NACOSTI, given those requirements of the PC. So what we've done, the indicator, of course, is we have gone through this, but I just want to repeat it again, that it is the expectation that this indicator expects that we have a focal person and champions who are supposed to coordinate the STI mainstreaming. And the second thing is to develop the STI strategy using the template that is provided by NACOSTI, 30%, and then implement the strategy by undertaking the following interventions. Now, based on the discussion that we've just had a while ago, you can see the really starting point should be the strategy. Unfortunately, a number of institutions have not done that, because the strategy now puts in the context of your mandate of the organization. So you put in the strategy things that you are capable of doing, drawing lessons from the or lessons from the strategic plans which you already have, and other relevant documents. So if you have done that, then number C there is about implementing that strategy. So you're implementing things that really you have committed yourself to be able to do. One is to document research programs and projects and funding sources, and that was going to attract 10%. You ensure an annual budgetary allocation of R&D to at least 2% of the total allocation, and that earns 10%. Again, to mention here that when you go to the relevant reporting framework, you are supposed to declare, and the funds that we are looking for is on operations. And as I said, operation is what you call recurrent minus the statutory deductions that you're going to make, including salaries, NHIF, and so on. And whatever resources are left, then we are saying that at least 2% of that should be devoted to R&D. And as I said earlier, if you get an institution whose core business is research, then 2% is really nothing out of that, because they should be doing about 80–90%. But other institutions where there is research is not a core business, then 2% would really be what it would take to be able to undertake processes or research that will inform their policy interventions based on their functions of their mandate. Then the third thing they're supposed to do is to document, to undertake research, science and technology and innovation, transfer technologies and so on. And again, that attracted about 15%. What is the NACOST strategy for implementing or supporting the STI mainstreaming indicator? What we've done, or what we did, is that we first began by establishing an STI mainstreaming committee with the following terms of reference. Of course, members of the committee, I did introduce them at the beginning, and there are 10 of them. And part of the TORs that we were supposed to do was to develop training curriculum on STI mainstreaming and train MDS when called upon to do so. So all the training that we are doing are based on a curriculum that we have developed. So it's standard, and you realize that what we did in the first and second was actually very standard. The second thing, they're supposed to sensitize or train internal and external stakeholders on STI mainstreaming. 3, develop reporting and scoring templates for the guidelines, and then receive, analyze quarterly performance. I think I need to have this in the, sorry, should I put it in there? So to receive, to analyze submitted quarterly performance reports from MDS and provide feedback to respective MDS through the office within 15 days from the date of submission. And I will be giving a report on that later, making comment on that. And then supposed to prepare quarterly and annual reports for STI mainstreaming among the MDS, and then establish a robust feedback system for MDS to ensure timely, effective and efficient responses to emerging issues and concerns, oversee automation of reporting process. Number 4 and number 6 and 7, sorry, this is what is ongoing, and we hope that soon we'll have all these processes automated and reduce the paperwork and the way we have been doing in the past. They're also supposed to provide an annual report for the state of STI mainstreaming, and finally, the committee has the responsibility to implement any other relevant tasks as they may be assigned by the Director General. So based on that, therefore, what have we done? One, the STI Mainstreaming Committee has prepared and uploaded on the website the necessary documents necessary for MDS to actualize the reporting of the indicator. And these documents are as outlined here. We have a quarterly reporting template for STI Mainstreaming indicator. We have a template for institutional STI strategy. There is a guide to development of the institutional STI strategy. There is also a list of institutions to implement the STI indicator in the performance contracting. And then there is also a document on roles and responsibilities of the focal persons and champions. And in addition to that, of course, I've already mentioned that we have developed a curriculum which we are using to train the focal persons as well as the champions. So in terms of preparedness, those are the things that we have put in place. And all this, you can be able to access these materials directly from our website. Also, we have also undertaken capacity building. And of course, I've already mentioned that earlier, 2 virtual trainings, one in September, another one in October last year, and then another one which was face-to-face in December for about 4 days. Let me give you just a snapshot of the first virtual training, which we held from 13th to 17th. That was online, and you are able to capture, as you can be able to see from this slide, that in terms of attendance by research institutions, universities, TVET institutions, MDA 1 and MDA 2, we had categorized them, split that into 2 groups. So that's why you can see MDA 1 and MDA 2. And then we had the totals. And all in all, there was a total of 731 participants that logged in at one time or another. And we were able to do analysis, maybe in depth of that, even to see the frequency of logging in and so on. And we were also able to determine how many people are able to at least attend half the day. So the others who may have logged in and logged out, again, you are able to capture that, and you can find that in our detailed report. We also did ask you to be able to rate the training that we did. And again, this is not the rating, this is the presentation, but let me go to the rating, which is the rating, which we actually asked you to do some evaluation on that. And we have given here a presentation of 2 overall rating of the training, which you can be able to see on the left. And then the overall rating of trainers, again, you're able to capture that. Maybe the writing may be a bit too small for you, but let me interpret that for you, that the blue shows excellent and orange shows very good. And then gray is good. And then what is looking like a deeper orange, maybe I'm not very good in colors, is fair. So you can see in terms of how you rated this training, and this again was done online, and all these materials can actually be found as well, including the original contents. Looking at very good and excellent, they occupy about 70 or 80% of that. And that again was reflected in the way you actually rated the trainers as well. The face-to-face training, we had 189 participants who attended, and they were drawn from 96 institutions. Okay, and the institutions again are, as you can see, 17 of them were from university and university colleges. TVET institutions had 39, research institutions and regulatory agencies 14. Institutions participated, ministries and departments were 26 ministries and departments. And in terms of institutions that participated, we had 96 of them. I want at this point to be able to quickly just give you some highlight on that is, let's pull this out first, maybe. Yes. Are you able to see that? Are you able to see that slide?
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you very much. I just want to use this to make some comments on areas that we think how you did perform. Just very general comments, and thereafter then I'll allow our other colleagues to make comments and also to go through the questions and that you have actually asked. When you look at the reporting tool, the first part, of course, that did not pose a lot of challenge. You're just supposed to indicate the focal person as well as their contacts. We had very few cases where we had a tool that did not have contact person, but yet it was submitted, but those were extremely few. And the first thing was to develop institutional science, technology, and innovation strategy using the table, which we have provided elsewhere. And this is where we have had a number of challenges, and up to as late as now, we still have institutions that are still asking to be supported to be able to develop the STI strategy. And yet this should have actually come as a first thing. Nonetheless, you still have an opportunity to do so. And the interpretation is that so far you have not been able to score the 30%. But if you have indicated that there is work in progress later on in this reporting framework, then at least that institution has been able to score some points. Now, based on that, then that is where the aspect of sub-indicator number 2, where you are now implementing the strategy that you have developed, which takes the entire 70% of the score. Again, just to inform that this was an area that a number of you did pretty well, even though you did not have the strategy, but there are certain activities that you're actually doing. And therefore, those that reported were able to get some scores. And again, we'll revert that a little bit more. This table on human resource data, again, did not have a challenge because this is just the data that you have. And you are giving the data on PhD, masters, and bachelors. Just a clarification during the course of interaction with the MDAs is that the data that we are requiring here is not the data for the entire institution. We are looking at data of staff whom we can call are implementing the core mandate of the organization. So we are not requiring the entire human resource of the organization, but we are looking at what we would call the technical staff with regard to that MDA. That is the staff that are involved in the STI or RSTI. That is the data that we are looking for and not the entire data. To give you an example, during my first presentation, I gave you the structure of how of NACOST is structured. And I said we had corporate department, directorate, then we had 2 technical directorate, one for research quality assurance, and the other one for scheduled science. So what we would call the technical staff that we are looking for STI are domiciled in the 2 directorates. But the other directorate of corporate services is actually a staff that is providing support as far as RSTI is concerned. So you need to differentiate that so that you give us data which we actually are looking for and not just the data that puts across. So if you may have made that kind of a mistake, it is an opportunity for you in the next reporting cycle. You go back and be able to refill it and just indicate to us on it that this supersedes the data that you had given us earlier. Of course, the next one is similar, but this time around showing the qualifications vis-a-vis age. Of course, it was well filled by most MDAs, if not all of them. The issue of 0.5 million with regard to the equipment, a few pose some challenges to that, but just to highlight this area, we are looking for equipment, one piece of equipment, not a lab. If it is a lab, you have a piece of equipment that costs 500,000 and above. That is the kind of equipment that you're supposed to indicate. Again, to let you know that filling this table, saying none or nil, the way you can see somebody has filled in this one, the way we have given an example here, earns you the score. The reason why we are looking for this kind of equipment is that later on, we will be able to have a digital map that can be able to indicate some of this very expensive equipment together with their capability so that we can be able to allow people to know where they are located and how they can be able to access them and so on and so forth. So you don't lose mark for not having the equipment, and therefore that shouldn't worry you. But you lose the mark for not filling in the table, declaring that you either have or you do not have. So that is the difference in terms of how you score here. The next one that I want to mention again that posed a bit of a challenge was that an institution shall be required to establish institutional scientific and ethics review committee, that is the ISAC, which shall be accredited by the commission or be affiliated to an existing accredited ISAC in a university or registered research institution in Kenya. Here again, just to let you know that your answer there, you're supposed to indicate either yes or no, but you don't score until you give the explanation of no or yes. If yes, then you'll quickly be expected to give the other details about the reports, the annual reports, and so on. But if it is no, all you need to say is that yes, we want to liaise with an accredited institution where we will take our proposals there for review. Why is this important as far as research is concerned? We are looking at the way we conduct business as far as research is concerned. And therefore, these committees, we expected that every research must be subjected to this committee, who will look at it from the scientific soundness as well as the ethical compliance. So they look at the science and they look at the ethical compliance. Why again is this important? We've been sharing with some of the organizations, and one organization told me they commissioned someone to do a customer satisfaction survey, which is a research. And after the person went through and brought the report back, of course, I won't mention which institution, but I'm sure the colleagues who we shared this on this have logged in, I believe. The person went and just copied some document from a foreign country and patched it up and brought and submitted. Of course, the person was paid handsomely, and that was the end of story. Later on, when the colleagues reviewed this document, they actually saw that it was copy-paste, and it even had names of some organization in Europe. Now, the point that I want to make here is that if that proposal had gone through the Institutional Scientific and Ethics Review Committee to review its scientific soundness and ethical compliance, I'm sure that would have been detected as research which is plagiarized or coming from wherever. But because that didn't happen, even the scientific soundness or the ethical compliance of it actually misses out. So in terms of assuring quality on matters of research, it is important that we move from just doing things for the sake of them, but do them in a manner that if somebody repeats the same kind of work, they should be able to get findings or results that are quite similar or very, very close. So that is the essence of having this committee. We will later on be running a training, I think before the end of June, we will be running a training to build capacity of institutions that may wish to establish these committees. Just again to mention that if your institution is not heavily involved in research, you do not need the committee. You can have your proposal reviewed by an existing committee. But if your institution is heavily involved in research, I think it is important that you go the way of establishing the Institutional Scientific and Ethics Review Committee. The guidelines for establishment can be found on our website. And of course, those establishment and accreditation process is benchmarked with the best international standards. Then the other area that, of course, I would like to emphasize is about policies on research and intellectual property rights. Some institutions have research policies which incorporates intellectual property rights. We would like to go the way of having a standalone IP policy so that it is well covered, because IP issues are extremely important, particularly in terms of research and even innovation, research, technology, as well as innovation. We need to protect the intellectual property of researchers or individuals, as well as the intellectual property of organizations. Just to give an example again, is that when you commission someone to do studies for you, so the question would be, who owns the IP? If you do not have a proper IP policy within your organization, then that organization is likely to lose out on this. But if you have, then you would be able to say, what does it say as far as commission researchers are concerned? Or what does it say concerning a member of staff of that organization when they do some research and they end up with some novel discoveries? That would actually be the basis upon which a decision is made based on a policy that has been developed within an institution. So again, saying yes or no does not give you a score, but the explanation that you give, if you do not have an IP policy, then this is one area that you need to develop, and I would encourage that this need to be developed by all institutions with RST&I. Of course, again, I saw that one of the questions was asking whether an acoustic can be able to share a template for IP policy. We have an IP model template, which I want to say that we can share so that you can fast track the process of developing your institutional IP policies. So that will be shared. We can as well find it on our website. It's one of those documents that we have uploaded on our website. Then the next, this is the area that the institutions were supposed now to document the process of developing the strategy, and that was the process itself was going to help you earn perhaps about 20% out of the 30 marks that we are talking about. So here you are to document the processes. And for example, putting a committee in place led by the focal persons and champions is a process, because that is step one. And of course, the next step would be perhaps the committee has developed a draft. That would be a step number two. Sharing a draft perhaps with internal and external stakeholders would be another step. And then later on subjecting the draft to your management boards, so on, for approval. And of course, the last stage would be where you as an organization, when you have such internal documents, the highest level of approval would be the last, and that would you would end up now with a strategy that is complete. So a number of institutions did indicate that they were in the process, but there was no evidence to the effect that there was that there was even a committee or a consultant or a person appointed to drive the process. So when that lacked, then you missed the score. But where you did report that there is ongoing and you indicated certain steps that have happened, then you are able to get some score out of it. I think the last part that I want to mention, which posed a bit of a challenge, is in this area of funding, and that slide shows the funding for the research. This is not funding, it's about research program, but I want to talk about funding as the last one, because that posed a bit of a challenge. You can see from the template there, we have, is it this one? Okay, just a minute. Yes, sorry, it's table 4. This is the one that I wanted to talk about in terms of funding. So we give, when you look at it, it has the sources of funding. So we have the GOK grants, you have donors, stroke partners, and then you have appropriation in aid, okay? And you're supposed to specify. Then in the first column, we are talking about recurrent budget, okay? So you have, say, a recurrent budget of about 40 billion or 40 million. That would be a recurrent budget. Then out of that recurrent budget, you are looking at the operational budget, which would be about 25 million. So the expectation here is that operational, you have removed the salaries, and the other statutory deductions. So you remain with what we call operational budget. So that's the one now we are looking at. A number of you maybe had some confusion there as to whether they were using the entire recurrent or operational. We specifically went on for operational to take care of the MDAs that are not heavily researched, so that the issues of looking at full-time equivalent for the purposes of human resource, we remove that. And therefore we are saying, after you remove salaries, you remove insurance covers, you remove NHIF, you remove whatever is remaining is what we call operation. And out of that, what proportion are you dedicating to R&D? So it is that is as simplified as that. And of course, now the expectation is that at the end of it, we expect that R&D to be not less than a 2%. Now, we are taking this to be a baseline study, and being not study, sorry, a baseline as a baseline data. And therefore, even if you report that you are doing 0.5, you do not lose mark, you'll still get a full mark for reporting that this year you are doing 0.5. But moving forward, we're expecting you to grow that to a minimum of 2%, particularly for those institutions that are not heavy in R, ST, and I. So at least that is the clarification that we need to give it to you. And you can see from this table, you can see if it is like GeoGay grants, you are spending about 1%. But when you look at the donor funding, it's almost 100%, because all the money that comes in is actually dedicated as operational, and you are using it for R&D because the donor has given money for a particular project. So the whole of that comes 100%. And then maybe for A&A, you can also see you take some money out of that and you are able to put in R&D, and it gives you a fraction of about 33.3%. You can do now the average of that to give you the percentage of R&D for the institution for that particular year. That is how the calculations were meant to be done. And perhaps, again, if you didn't get that right, then you have an opportunity to do that. My final comment, as I finish this presentation, is that all is not lost for all the institutions, okay? And you still have an opportunity as you do report in your last quarter. If you've done now everything in place, you should be able to score this target almost 100%. Some of you have already done our analysis. We are already doing about 80, 90%. A few are there. Others are doing 30%. But there is an opportunity for those that are doing 30% to even move to about 100% by the end of the fourth quarter. I want to stop there and perhaps allow my other colleagues, maybe the best way is for them to, if they can be able to respond to a few of the questions that have been posed, then we will give you an opportunity to ask for more questions. So Javan, are there questions that perhaps you would like to address at this point? Maybe make a few comments and be able to address some questions. I know you may have answered some of those questions already in the Q&A, but in the interest that you can capture one or two questions that you think you need to orally share them out, I think that would be in order so that you might assist another person who may not have seen the answer that perhaps you provided.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, there are two, I think there are around two, and it will be a quick one. One, there is this question that has been cutting across on some MDAs that during the process of negotiation and vetting, of course, having the mandate of research or science, technology, and innovation, but still under their core mandate, they were not able to reflect, or they didn't indicate STI as an indicator in their core mandate. My advice is that that was, of course, an oversight. That was an oversight. And since we are moving to the next cycle, the 19th cycle, that is the 2022-2023 PC guidelines, it will be very, very important to start complying now. Even if you have not reflected the same, it will be very, very important, for example, to start developing your STI strategy that will really be to your benefit and to your advantage, and start reporting. You can even compile both the first, second, and then the quarter report and submit. How this will be important is because in the next cycle, as we review the next cycle, of course, all institutions with a mandate on the same will be included. And that means during negotiation, vetting, and review, then of course you'll have this indicator. So you have done your work a bit easier. It will be very easy. You have made it easier in terms of compliance and in terms of implementation, so that by the time probably we are clocking the fourth quarter, then you have an STI strategy, you have been able to do the reporting, then it will be very, very easy for you as you pick it in 2022, 2023. That is one. Then also we have instances where some institutions are saying they have literal mandate, or probably based with all they see, it's a bit literal. And then the question is, do they still have to have STI, or probably they have science, technology, and innovation as an indicator, but the mandate is very literal. I think this was clearly captured by the Director General and even Boniface. In terms of any research, if your mandate, just look at your mandate keenly, look at the act that establishes the MDA, and if there is research, and a very good example I've seen, one of the MDA, Tourism Board, I think it was Tourism Board, and one of their mandates is to ensure that they do marketing of new site for tourists and all that. So basically, just by a mere look at what you do, already you see there is a mandate on research. My point is, please verify that clearly, and then whatever the scope, and this one again, the DG again highlighted the issue of the MDAs have been categorized. We have research institutions based with the mandate that you have, so that you are able to capture that and you are able to report. Because moving forward, it's a government directive, of course, performance contracting. The platform in which the STI, or science, technology, and innovation, is riding is a government platform through performance contracting, and it has higher implications. So it will be very important for you to start complying now. Please look at your mandate clearly. And in fact, that's where the challenge is, because I've done sensitization to some of the MDAs who are exactly saying, for example, our mandate is not clear, we doesn't have research, science, technology, and innovation. But I can look at it, looking at your other documentation, for example, the strategic plan, your work plans, and all that, you realize there's a lot of that in that direction. So please, let's look at that and let's ensure that we comply, because it will be very moving forward. This has been identified, and this has been, I don't want to believe on it. You know why research, science, technology, and innovation is becoming important, both to the government and to the MDAs, and indeed that's why we need to have it. So I think that's one of the questions that has been cutting across. The other, and this is the last one, is on 2%. One of the questions I've seen, and there is actually like 4 of them. The question is, do we have to have the 2%? And I think Boniface has clearly, he has addressed that. The point is, don't just look at the 2% from a allocation point of your budget. Look at 2% from operational perspective, whereby there are funds that you're utilizing in buying those equipment, the ones that Boniface was talking about, the lab equipment. Look at 2% from a point whereby there is that money allocated and utilized, for example, in the areas of undertaking various projects, research projects that are running, conferences, the conference, managing conference proceedings and all that. So money, for example, your project, for example, it's a university, we have student projects that are running, both postgraduate and undergraduate probably. There are those innovations, money that has been used in commercialization, money that has been used in the process of actualizing IP policies, and all that. So you don't have to restrict yourself purely on.
I can't hear you. Is it me?
You can hear me? I can hear you. I don't know whether you can hear me now. You can hear me?
Javan, is it my end? You are disappearing. Is it my network or is...
I don't know, but I can hear you. Is everyone hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, Chair, yes, I think, Chair, it is from your end, probably, because I can also hear you, Chair.
Maybe mine as well. I don't know.
You can hear me now, Chair? I don't know. You're gone. What can you do? The chair seems...
You can go on. They're hearing you. It's only maybe me.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I was summarizing the issue of, thank you, Chair. I was summarizing the issue of 2%, and I was saying, let us be encouraged, let the MDAs look beyond. Of course, under the financial indicator, we are one of the key targets is on budgetary compliance with set budgetary levels. Remember, the first approval you seek in your PC is the budget itself, and that goes the entire process from the ministry to treasury. That means the money that you are allocated probably may not have been very sufficient. But if you look at the recurrent expenditure, if you look at operational budget specifically, then there are those funds that you have utilized in those areas. For example, in your labs, buying those equipment, in areas in consultancy related issues, in conferences, when you are doing innovations, commercialization of innovations and all that. My point is, you can actually realize you are beyond the 2% if you look at the other activities that support research, science, matters research or science, technology and innovation. Thank you, Chair. Chair, you can hear me now? Yagon, there seems to be challenge from Chair side.
Javan, maybe you can proceed as.
Let me proceed. Yes, as you get the chair on board. So basically, I also want to address Evans Wamalwa. Evans is saying that we delayed submitting first quarter report as an institution. Can quarter one report sent alongside? Yes. Remember the most critical thing here. There are even some that were saying when they submit in first quarter, they earn some corrections. And probably even the second quarter. Please, as you submit the third quarter, ensure you submit your first, second, and third quarter. It's very, very important because remember, at the end of the fourth quarter, you need to be the compliance. We need to sustain the level of compliance based on how you've been able to report, and of course, sending all the necessary documentary evidence. So as that evaluation is being done, the evaluation can only happen when you have the material documentary evidence of first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter. So yes, proceed forward and please ensure that you submit. And the deadline, of course, is on 15. Today is the 13th. So we have 2 days for you to comply and do that. So the point is you can do that. So the other question, as we get the chair, I think I've addressed the issue of Cristobal. I've addressed that. The issue of feedback. Hello, you normally don't send feedback when we send quarterly report. Yes, I don't know, but feedback is actually sent. It depends probably the scope of the feedback that you expect, because if you look at all specialized agencies, the kind of feedback they give, one is an acknowledgement. They acknowledge that they have received your report. And as the chair has done, if you have looked at the presentation that the chair has done for us, he has covered the midterm review that captures first and second quarter and giving feedback in terms of the detailed now. What you may not get at this time, and there is no MDA that really tells you, for proper guidance, once the specialized agency like NACOSTO receive, they'll acknowledge that. But moving forward now, as we move forward, you'll be able to get the feedback up as we approach the fourth quarter, or now it has been done. But I think it's a good, that's a good suggestion. I think the next one is, how are priorities for MT4 being proposed and compiled? I know even as the Ministry of Education has communicated to various, of course, your respective ministries have communicated to all various MDAs in relation, and the MDAs have shared based with the key areas. So please liaise with your respective ministry in matters MTP4, because I know a committee is in place and we are there. I happen to have contributed information on the same, so that you may know the exact role that you are playing in terms of development of MTP4. One, they're establishing currently the status where we are in relation to MTP3, and then of course the development of MTP4. So that's the information directly from the ministry, and there is a committee in place. The research areas are interesting. Kindly, is there a way we can access information for further interaction? Yes, I think the presentation will be shared and we'll be able to get the information. So another, I'm looking for one that was cross-cutting. On 2%, I think we have addressed the issue of 2% allocation on science, technology, and innovation. Do we consider salaries for researchers as part? Remember, That's a very good question. I said, as you look at the 2%, look at it from a holistic perspective. There is what you are allocating, there is what you are spending. And a very good example is what you are saying, you have researchers. So we expect there is a project. So there is that budget for that project where these researchers are involved. So basically what you capture is that expenditure in terms of the set budget for that research project. So it did, yes, salaries and many other things are part of it. That is part of 2%. If you consider it from a project perspective, and then you have the various researchers and all that, even the equipment actually that the researchers are using, they are part of 2%. So the answer is yes. In our PC 2021-2022, our institution doesn't have any indicator for STI. We are mainly funding agency, road maintenance, rehabilitation and development. Please, as I said again, road maintenance, rehabilitation and development of roads, science, technology and innovation, you can't avoid it. Please look again at your mandate, look at the act that establishes you, and out of that, you agree with me, there's a lot of research, there is a lot of science, technology and innovation involved. So if you didn't have the indicator, as I said again, during negotiation and vetting, there was some oversight to some MDAs. This time around in the 19th cycle, I can promise you, all institutions with research mandates will be carried forward. In other words, it will be a requirement that it should be part and parcel of your core mandate. So it's important also, you start now complying. It's very, very important you start developing your STI strategy. Just ensure the activities for 2021, 2022 are being implemented so that it will be very easy for you as we move to 2022, 2023 financial year. That will be very important and it will make your work very, very easy. Is the chair back?
Yes, I was back, Javan. And
karibu chair. You can take over from there. Yes, I was just reacting to some cross-cutting issues from MDA, from the participant. Thank you, Chair.
I agree with you totally. I've listened to your presentation, and just to re-emphasize one thing, that when you look at the Vision 2030, it does acknowledge that STI is a strong pillar or a pillar there. You look at the SDGs globally, it has been acknowledged that you cannot achieve SDGs unless without science, technology, and innovation. What I want to emphasize is that if we have an institution, and that is national as well as global priority, a lot of things that are in SDGs are also in Vision 2030 and vice versa. So generally, government is tasked to do policy matters. Whether you are a specialized institution, you are a corporation, or you are from the mainstream ministry, the basis is that policy development is key to any government institution. Of course, the main ministries are responsible for policy that cuts across. But where do those policies emanate? They emanate from the specialized agencies or the agencies under that particular ministry. So policy development is evidence-based. You must have data, and that data, the way you get it and how to use it is actually a scientific process. I just want to emphasize that. Let's look at our mandate from that perspective. If you are a main government mainstream, a ministry or a department within a ministry, then policy is very important. If you are a corporation like Nacosti and others, again, policy development to inform government on certain things, because policy is an advisory tool, therefore becomes essential. So when you do that, and then of course, research informs science in terms of expansion, research informs technology, research also informs innovation. So it's cutting across in all these things. So if we look at it from that perspective, then you can be able to say there is no way you're going to make a policy without evidence, and that evidence must come from a product of research. So we want to encourage MDAs to begin to drive their process from evidence-based. And that calls for use of research, science, technology, and innovation. I wanted to emphasize that point, and then perhaps ask Yegon if there are any other questions on the chat that any of our colleagues would like to answer. If not, we can also open it up to hear a few questions from the participants that have logged in. Yegon?
Yeah, maybe we can start with those who have raised their hands. We have Lucas.
You have who?
Lucas.
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, proceed.
Yes, this is Maulana Lucas. I'm the STI focal person from Taita Taveta University, and also the research officer of the university.
Okay.
So thank you. We had a visit by Professor Oyawa some times back, and I think also with Boniface during the COVID time, and I think we shared a number. TTU as a university which has been designed on STEM has been having some challenges. I think one of the issue on the report which we did the other time, I think the second quarter which we reported, we needed some clarification. I think Boniface tried to capture that, Mr. Wekesa tried to capture that in his presentation on the reporting, especially on the research STI equipment. So my question was, as a mining university, because the president launched the National Mining Institute at TTU in the year around some years back, but we have been trying to get those equipments, despite the fact that through the donor-funded projects we are having with many partners from international universities, we have tried to build some center of excellence, especially the mining one and natural resource management in the sub-eco region. So through those programs, they have supported us in getting capacity building. So most of our lecturers who went out are coming back, maybe from China, Germany, and Korea and other places, including like our dean. But now when they come back, there is a problem. We have reported their equipments, but I don't know what NACOST is doing to assist us, because like when the professor visited us, we had intended that NACOST is trying to develop strategy of linking university on specialized areas like TTU. Because when one professor talked about UFB and on the numbers, now as a university which is linked to STEM, we can only get the number of students which can be supported with the equipment we have when we are declaring. It's not like in those universities which are doing social sciences. And this equipment, as I've told you, we have limited budgets. We now have lecturers who are back with PhDs, many of them, but we don't have the equipments. We have equipments, but not the specialized generation like the ones they used in their training in other countries. So I was kindly requesting if NACOST, other than just the reporting bit, which now is well articulated in this STI mainstreaming, whereby you'll be knowing what the university is doing and what our new equipment are acquiring in every quarter. But to beef up the equipments and creating that map, which I think we were already told the other time and it has been repeated, so it seems it's in your strategy to map equipment like TTU, which equipment do you have in mining? So like in the whole of Kenya, TTU is focusing mainly on mining issues. So it's kind of requesting to know what are the strategies NACOST is doing as we report this data, how you're using it to assist us to get more specialized equipment and beef up the database you already have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. Let's hear another one.
The second one is Noah.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Boniface. Now, if you go to your presentation where we are reporting in terms of the PC guidelines, you realize that it is a standard tool. Now, my suggestion would be, if we are committing ourselves, like when we are designing the PC for commitment, part of the commitment should be a different tool or should be included in the PC when we are committing ourselves in the financial year. And I've seen out of this discussion that probably what we are talking about, STI strategy, those are some of the things now we would say we are committing to be doing such a thing within one financial year, so that you have the reportings on quarterly basis based on allocations of the budget. And now that way will solve a lot of these questions that we are asking. So that if you look at those reportings, if you look at the template, we will be reporting on the same matters. If it is human resource, if it is academic qualifications, if it is, we are reporting on that matter. But now, what are the core reporting mandates directly affecting STI mainstreaming for the institution? That way, will actually give a direction for each and every institution to be solving STI-related issues within that actually serve their core mandate and support the core mandate of the institution. I think that point should come out clearly from the STI, from the PC commitments, despite actually the overall, as it is right now, it doesn't give a proper direction. But from this discussion, this session of question and answer, I think it's coming out clearly that now for, let's say, NCBB, for instance, let me use the organization I'm working for. Then what are the core mandates for NCBB I have? How does STI come in? Then now those are the commitments I commit myself that this is what I'll be reporting for this financial year. And if I have my STI strategy that is aligned to my own strategic plan that will also be aligned to MTB4, then I will be solving those STI strategies, because some might be in the long run, some might be in the short term, some actually can run even the entire period of the planning of the strategic plan. So I think that way will guide each and every institution to be actually coming on board and feeling that they are part and parcel of STI mainstream. That is my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Noah, for your comment. I think we are in agreement. We are saying that the strategy gives us an opportunity to bring out what is it unique, what is it the STI indicators do I want to address as far as your mandate is concerned. So we are in agreement on that, and the strategy is not going to be implemented in 1 year. The strategy, you will need to align it, of course, to your strategic plan as well. And that we are also saying that the strategy could be 3 years at minimum, but it could be 5 years at maximum. That's what we are saying. So once you have your strategy, then progressively you are going to implement the STI strategy, and that will directly address your core business. So it is something that we are in agreement on that, and moving forward, of course, that is the direction in which we need to take. Of course, the other question that was raised by Lucas from Taita Taveta University about equipment is a big challenge for all of us. I think we are taking note of that. But of course, what we are saying in this one as a first step would be to do the mapping first. And that mapping is going to be informed by the results that we get at the end of this exercise. So we'll use that to do our mapping. And of course, we may do other analysis then therefore to inform us the gaps that could be existing as well. We will want to look that against the reports that we receive in terms of people wanting to go and do certain experiments or analysis out of the country with the reason that we do not have those kind of facilities. And therefore, in terms of policy development, then we'd be able to say, this is what we have as a country, and this is the demand that we see from researchers taking materials out or wanting to have collaboration that will enable them to use facilities beyond outside. And then the policy would be to advise government to invest, particularly in those areas that we do not have sufficient equipment to be able to do that, because exporting materials is an expensive undertaking for a nation, and would save the exchequer of this if we were able to have this equipment within our own borders. I think that is what I wish to speak to say on the question that on the comments, I would call it comments that were raised by Dr. Lucas from Taita Taveta University. We want to invite any other questions, and my colleagues also, if there are any others on the Q&A that have not been responded to, we also please check them so that you can respond to all the questions. You're going back to you. Any hands that you're seeing?
Probably we can give Frida Mwende. Prof.
Frida, okay. Frida, proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. I want to appreciate this opportunity that you've taken to take us through the Q&A session to clarify some of the things. Now, I just wanted to ask a few things. One, with regard to the budget. I'm from the National Risk Control Council, and with government agencies, we do budgets once in a year or annually. So if I report in Q1 that we have this amount allocated for R&D, in the subsequent quarter, am I supposed to repeat the same, or should I indicate the additional funds that I get either through AINE or other partners? That's question number one. Then number two, indicator 2.3, the one on research, commercialization, and such. You realize those activities that can run for over a year. They are not necessarily a quarterly activity or a short-term activity. So it means it's possible that within a year I may not have that particular report, but the next subsequent year, I'm able to report on that indicator. What happens? And yet you're saying we need to have a minimum of 4. Can I just report on the one that I've done that year? And then when I'm done with the other activity, for example, something like development of products or something like that, the other year or something like that. That's number 2. And then finally on that section, I've realized you allocated more masks, or more, the score is higher for that particular indicator than the others. And yet for most of the institutions, or rather like the MDS, apart from the research institutions and the universities, you may realize that our strength is stronger on the other areas as opposed to that particular indicator. Aren't we disadvantaged? Maybe you can answer those 3. Thank you, Chair. Hope it's been clear.
Yes, thank you very much, Frida. I think you've been very clear. When you report budget in Q1 and whether you need to repeat in the subsequent quarters. I want to pick up from the point where you said, as government institutions, we have a budget, and that budget should be able to, at the beginning, to indicate that you are going to allocate this money to buy an equipment, this money to do some STI-related training, this money, maybe you'll commission someone to do some research that is going to inform your policy and so on. So already that should be known at the beginning. And therefore you can be able, at the beginning when you are filling the first quarter, you report on funding as budgeted. In the course of time, there could be a change. And particularly if there is a positive change, you hit a partner, you get a partner. And now the partner comes on board. Remember, there is a place for donors at the end of it where you're going to report. And that is going to contribute, finally, when you are computing in the fourth quarter, the amount of money that you have used on R&D, it will be accumulative. What you had budgeted for, if you have used it, plus any other addition that may have come in, either in form of a quarter or a revision of your budgets, then you compute that to give us the percentage. So that is what happens. Now, I also want to say that in the first quarter, there are things that you can feel across board. You can feel, of course, the focal person, whatever you feel that, you're able to feel funding will also be done. Human resource, you can be able to feel that because you know the capacity of your institution. What else? If there are ongoing projects, you can also be able to indicate that in the first quarter. The same template, you're going to use it in the second, third, and fourth quarter reporting. So you report on human resource only if there is a change. If there is no change, just say as per Q1, okay? Meaning you have not lost anybody and you have not recruited anybody in that core business. That meaning the numbers you gave have remained the same. So you say as per Q1. Budget which you did in the first quarter, it has not changed. But in the reporting for Q2, you just say as per Q1. Okay, if there is a change, is when you indicate. When you say it's as per Q1, we have your Q1 what you have. So we already know. If you say as per Q1, that means nothing has changed. So you only report when there are changes. When it comes to reporting activities like for research, we know research is not so systematic in the sense that it's going to begin on the 1st of July and ending on the 31st or 30th of June. We know a research project comes in between. I mean, it can come anytime. And therefore, whenever it happens, that is when you report. If it happens in Q2, you report in Q2. You'll say, in addition to, but if, the other one, say when you report there and you had indicated the period, that means you already know that what you reported in Q2, that project is still ongoing. And therefore, the one that you are saying the start period will be indicating starting in Q2, we'll know now you have started a new project, or you're implementing a new project in the second quarter, and therefore that is how we report. So overall, that's why I said maybe under projects, so far you have not scored anything up to Q2, because we are yet to review Q3 because the deadline is tomorrow. So you may have not scored, but you'll end up scoring if you had a project or one or two came into place towards in the third quarter. So you can see you'll be able to score the entire area of projects by simply now indicating to us there is a project that is ongoing beginning in the third quarter. Okay, that is how you proceed. Then you have also raised an issue about products, and perhaps you are saying that these are slow things that come on board. Of course, there are various elements there. I don't know if I'm able to make reference to it, but there are various components, not one component, that you're supposed to report on in that table. And we said minimum of about 4 for an MDA, depending on the area in which your MDA is working in. And of course, we have also raised a section that perhaps the marks are quite high, and that could be disadvantaging some of you. So let's look at this at the end of the reports. We'll analyze that and see whether that is really the case. I want to give an example. Some institutions like the TVETs had initially indicated that they were going to be disadvantaged. But what is coming out is that a number of TVET institutions were actually scoring as high as 80 by the end of the second quarter. Surprising is what is coming out. So we can be able to tell that if at the end of the 4 quarters we analyze and see, is there an institution that was disadvantaged on account of what Frida, you are saying, then we can be able to respond to that. But so far, I think the way that the institutions are moving on, I think we are happy with that. Somebody mentioning that we do not give specific comments to institutions, that we are very generalized, so that kind of a question. This presentation, we have to be very general. We can't point out things. However, those that submitted on time will attest to the fact that we wrote letters individual to the institutions citing and telling you that we thank you for doing this. You need to fast track perhaps STI strategy because we think STI strategy needs to be fast tracked. We gave those very specific comments. We also wrote to other MDAs that had not reported. All of them, we released letters and many of them have responded. So I think when it comes to an individual institutions, we have their data, and when we report to them and send them a letter, it is customized on the areas that we think they are lagging behind and they need to pull up. I hope that suffices for Frida.
Thank you, Boniface. That's okay.
We have Edward Ogutu.
Should Edward proceed? And Javan, just maybe if you are able to answer that one, you can be able to respond.
Yes. Let me react. In fact, I was responding to it. I was writing, but it's good. Let me address it directly. Ogutu is asking, hello, Javan, why does the developers of this template recognize only a minimum of bachelor's degree in the reporting template on human resource capacity for institution? Thank you, Edward. I think Boniface actually addressed this when he was talking about HR, and he said, for what we're reflecting here is not really the entire composition within an MDE or institution, but ideally the HR that has a relation to the research project. Remember, why do you need this HR? Why do you need this composition? You need it because you are running research projects, and what is the composition of people be running such? And I want just to input and say, most of these research projects are very competitive, actually. And in fact, they have a standard template in terms of composition. You realize, like most of the research projects, the question is who is fronting, who are the participants in terms of qualification, in terms of in terms of human resource. And that you realize in most of research projects, ideally bachelor's degree is the minimum requirement. Of course, you may have a diploma level who are playing research assistant and all that, but from a best practice perspective, most of research projects are from bachelor's degree to master's, PhD and all that. And I'm sure you agree with me, most of these research projects that we know that are running, you realize, like, for example, if I was to use a university, let's use even like University of Nairobi. Most of the research projects that are running there, they're actually guided, or probably the team, the principals, ideally full professors. Because again, attracting this money, as I said, is very competitive. Whoever is giving money or the source where the money is coming from, they need to be very sure that indeed this work will be done. So in terms of ensuring that for best practice, bachelor's degree was chosen so that, again, we are not, remember, as I said, what are you running within that financial year? These are the research projects. These are the projects that are taking place. And we are simply saying we want to know what is the composition, who is there, and what is the qualification. That is very critical because, again, such resource personnel can actually be used even across the sector. You may realize, for example, as it was stated, like Kemri, for example, you realize they are running certain specific projects, programs, and the same program, there could be a program of the same nature running, let's say, in Multimedia University. And then in terms of composition, you want probably to bring on board such people with such expertise and all that. So basically it's for best practice, and that's what anyway happens across the sector. And you realize, again, if you realize you also have, you are running a project and a research project, for example, and maybe in terms of capacity in the HR, you can also combine. A multimedia probably, or University of Nairobi may combine with another institution running such projects. So basically that is the spirit, that is the guiding spirit, Mr. Edward. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, is there another hand?
We have Tom on the line.
Yes, Tom, proceed. In Java and Steve, you can respond to it. Yes, if just listen to the question.
Okay, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair, so much for the opportunity that I've had. This is Thomas Wago from the Kitale National Polytechnic. I have just a few areas that I would wish be addressed. One is the idea that was, I think it was addressed by the DG. All the same, you still could talk on it. That we already have a research policy in place, research and innovation policy that is running already in our institution. And within that policy, we have a whole chapter of intellectual property rights dealing with all the issues of intellectual property. I was wondering, is it now, and you know, when we discussed with the management, we were like almost agreed that since IP rights have already been addressed on research policy, then probably we may not need to have additional policy on IP rights. I don't know what your take would be because that was the agreement then. Secondly, is about funding, source of funding, which again, we have talked on over and again, that for our case, it is easier to get some figures on A in A, but it's rather cumbersome to get to know, the grant, the GOK grant that is given to an institution, the donors, or unless they are specifically geared towards R&D. But then would it suffice? Would it be good enough if you, during your budgeting and you have a location on A in A, just to do the 2% of that A in A, if that is what you can be able to get. Then finally is about, I did reporting for first quarter, and I got the acknowledgement of the receipt of the report, but there was no further communication. Yet in that reporting, what I did was on the template, the strategy template, STI strategy template, which I filled in and forwarded. I was like hoping I would see an icon for uploading evidence of the documents that we already have. So what happens if I wanted to upload the evidence of documentary evidence for issues that we have so far done? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tom. And I'll also be asking David Amiani to respond on that. You said you are from which institution? Just remind me. Tom? Tom, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I hear you so well. I said I'm from
which
Kitale.
institution? Which institution?
Kitale National
Kitale.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I'll be asking David Amiani to give a comment on that, because you're saying you reported, but you did not get a feedback. I think we gave feedbacks to all the institutions that reported. Perhaps we may need to find out why you didn't. And I think David is going to do exactly that. Then the issue of, you said you have a research and innovation policy, and that is Kitale National Polytechnic. So you can be able to, I mean, I just sharing that you can see the TVET institutions are well ahead. Like now Kitale National Polytechnic have a research and innovation policy, and they are saying that inside there, they have a whole chapter on IP, intellectual property, which I think is good. Of course, for now, that would suffice, but I think moving forward, the best practice is to have an IP policies as standalone, because in therein, then you have sufficient details that would be able to guide MDS on the various issues that relate to intellectual property. So you can still forward the research and innovation policy. At some point, we look at it and perhaps see the adequacy or the inadequacy of the same. But I think moving forward, you may consider having a standalone STI policy. Issues of financing, again, we'll continue to debate about it, but the onus is on the institution because of this indicator coming into place to be able to allocate at least 2%. That is the bare minimum. We are not saying that 2% is excellent. 2% is really the bare minimum, but if we can move higher, that would be better. Even those institutions that we are seeing currently have 2%, we
The chair is muted.
Sorry, I got off and on. Am I on back now?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Sorry, I saw it went off and it came back. So I was saying that even 2%, when you indicate this year you have 2%, the expectation is that you need to grow it next year. So don't just give us 2%. If it can move higher, that would be better. But we're just saying 2% is minimum, and particularly for those institutions that are not research heavy. But where there is a policy like in this kind of institution, we expect perhaps you can even do better than 2%. Amiani, would you like to make comment on what he said about having sent a report and he didn't get the feedback?
Yes, actually we did have a feedback. We did a letter to the institution, so maybe they just need to check whether they got it, but we did do the analysis of the documents they did send, and we asked them to state plans and strategies and establish timelines for the research intellectual property policies. And I think that is what he has mentioned that he was to send. So we do not have maybe a link. You just send it back to the email address, the pc@nacosti.go.ke email address as an attachment. Then we will acknowledge receipt of the same. but we did do a feedback of the first quarter report.
Okay. So Edward, I think that is the position, but still you can do an email to just raise what you have raised, then we'll be able to respond again appropriately. But I think what we are saying is that we analyzed every institution that's sent on time. We analyzed all of them and we gave feedback. If there was the automation one is just to let you that it's been received. But then after that, then the committee reviews every report, okay, that has been submitted as individuals, and we respond to each one of them as an individual institution. Next,
we have Agnes on the line.
Agnes, okay, proceed. Can she unmute and proceed?
She tries, maybe we can go to Kihiru.
Okay, thank you,
Kihiru,
Chair.
yes.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I had sent the question through QA, but I feel it is getting late. My concern was once we send the quarterly reports, or also when we did send our STA strategy, no feedback comes from you as you have received, or maybe the corrections required. Because we're wondering if we've sent the quarter one report or quarter two report, and probably there are gaps, you need to communicate immediately so that we bridge, as opposed to having an NDR report. That's when you're raising to say you had the gaps in A, B, C, D areas. Thank you.
Agnes,
that's which institution?
Nyandarua National Polytechnic.
Nyandarua. Again, David, you may need to look through your, if you're able to access, then you can respond at some point, because I don't know why they are not getting feedback. Next. David will respond to that after he checks the system.
Agnes, the floor is yours.
I'm not able to get the button for unmute.
We cannot get.
But now you're unmuted.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it was disabled on my end. Thank you very much for the opportunity that you have given me to ask a question. I'm happy to be in this discussion. Thank you, facilitators, for bringing us on board. Some of the questions we have are actually being addressed very well. Keep it up. We could have this discussion more often. Mine is about, having listened to the questions that have been asked and the answers we are receiving, there is something which I'm feeling needs to, maybe in the next cycle or something, could be addressed. Yes, this is a new indicator in the performance contract, which has been now put in the guidelines. And look at the guidelines as they are. And we are saying it is STI mainstreaming, meaning the mainstreaming is a process which may take some time. And as it were, the targets that are already put down, which we have also taken them to our PCs, they are institutions who already are at 100%, looking at what is there. But there are other institutions like the TTIs that they have said are at the initial stages of mainstreaming STI. What I'm looking at is if we could break down the activities in phases so that if one has done phase one, then the phase one is actually, you are able to grade, or yes, that person at phase one and giving that activity so that even phase one, then you proceed to phase two. That phased process may help the institutions that are at the initial place, then the others will phase out, because a target, for example, of commercialization may take another 4 years in some of the new institutions that are there. And yet we are giving a mark of 35%, meaning that the institutions that are beginning will never ever get the 35 until a process has come into place. So the mainstreaming is a process, and my proposal needs to be phased out. So phase one, all of us are there, and we all now are evaluated on the phase one. Those who are ahead go to the other one. That's my take. From the discussions that I've had, that is the issue. Yes, we need to have a strategy, STI strategy. Yes, all of us, we can have that. But go to part B. Part B is problematic to majority of the institution. There are those old institutions or research institutions who are able to score B adequately. The rest will require some time to develop IP policy, which a policy can never take 1 year, may take more than 2 years to have it approved to the highest level of the structure of the institution. So I think moving in the next phase, next cycle, if we could face the activities, starting, mainstreaming, yes, let's face the activities and saying from this year, this is what you'll do. If you have done that this year, then move to the next one. That is my take. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much again for your comments. I think we are taking them. That's taken on board. Those are something that we'll need to take forward. Any other question?
Just to answer maybe the two questions on reporting for Kitale and Nyandarua, we did respond through their info email addresses, so they just need to check and maybe find out. For Nyandarua, we did communicate on 5th of February through the info@nyandaruanationalpoly.ac.ke. So it's for them maybe just to check, and if that email isn't working, they need to communicate to us through PC@Nacosti with the correct email address. But from our end, it was delivered.
Okay.
Yes.
I hope the people who raised that issue are have followed it up. I would like to just want to get a slide here. I don't know if I'll get it. There's this one. This one. Yes. Yes, I want to focus a little more. Can you see this slide?
Yes, we can see.
Yes. This is where I think, is it Frida who said we have allocated quite a high mark, 35. And we are saying, perhaps you need, they're saying that undertake research and technology innovation and technology transfer and commercialization, 35 points. MDS are required to identify, implement, and report on any 4 outputs based on the table below, which is table 5. The first one is about publication, peer-reviewed journals, books, book chapters, and I think we could also add their reports. We could add their reports as part of the publication, so that if you have done some work, research that happened within that year, or that year we had a project that's coming to an end, then you can have something to do. Either you published, there is a report. If there was a journal, then that could be for academics and so on. Then the other thing is about intellectual property. Maybe you recorded a patent, trademark, utility models, registered or granted. If that happened in that year, that's what you will report. Any technology developed, any innovation developed, any product developed, any product commercialized. Look at number 8, MOUs, partnerships that are geared towards STI mainstreaming. Is there any collaborations that you have undertaken in the course of the year, or reviewed an MOU or developed an MOU, which is supposed to bring an expert on board? And then the last one is about technology or innovations that have come. And we are saying you need to report any 4. So we are looking at, you could have some report for 1. Perhaps you have just registered a model. If you are a TVET institution, that's also possible. Technology, yes, it's possible that you can come up with a technology, a cross field, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's in industry, wherever technology. Innovations again, products, and so on. And you're saying we need at least just a maximum of 4, and you score 35, meaning if you score, if you have 3, then 35 divided by 3 times, I think it's 3 over 4 times 35. That should be able to give you the score for it. If you have 2, then it will be 2 out of 4 times 35. That should give you about half of, that is 17.5, and so on and so forth. I think that's how those marks are moving on. And one participant said they are likely to find difficult to do that. So let's wait and see the outcome of all this process, and then you can be able to make a decision on it. But I think it's possible to report on 4 of these by any MDA. It's possible. But we leave it open. The report, the overall report, when you look at a compiled report, then you can be able to make a decision. Yeah. Any other? Next.
Next online, we have Bridget Mutuma.
Who? Mutuma.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Bridget Mutuma. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I'm the focal person for Kirinyaga University, and I have 2 questions in regards to the reporting. The first one is on the human resource capacity data. So in the first quarter, we have data for the human resource capacity, the different 2 tables, A and B, but then you find out that in quarter 2 and in quarter 3, perhaps there are additional staff, or there are people who have obtained their master's or their PhD. So in that case, do you indicate in the second quarter and that quarter reports the number of people with the master's and PhD, or you have now to recompute the entire data that you gave in quarter 1 for the subsequent quarters when there are changes? And the changes can be 1 or 2 people. Or do you just write 1 or 2 in the different tables? That's the first question.
Okay, that I can answer. That the best is to redo the table, because if you just say 1 added, then it will mean you also have just to fill in where is this 1 and what is the age, what is, I think it is easier if you just refill the whole table, because it just be copying the previous one and adding as appropriate, because you just need to add if it was in whatever the field. It would be best if you repeated that as opposed to just indicating 1 or 2 people. Okay. Proceed.
Thank you very much for that. The second question is in terms of the table number 5.
You're a bit low.
The second question, can you hear me?
Right. Yes, now, excellent.
Yes. All right. The second question is about the table number 5. And in table number 5, for example, at our institution, you find that you have so many publications. So when you're reporting the details, you can say, like, for example, 50 publications, but then given the evidence, do you have to attach all the 50 publications, or you attach the abstract of each publication? And also when it comes to the innovation output, in the strategy, we have innovation programs that are going on, but most of them, it's highly unlikely that you'll have the innovation product ready within the first year. So that means even if we had it in the initial target, it may not be possible to have the innovation product ready. So in that case, what do you show as evidence? Because for the innovation product must be a product. So do you just show a report that shows that you reach stage A, or how do you go about it? Thank you.
Yes, the first one on publications, we are saying don't attach all of them. Where there are links, just provide links. That makes, where there are no links, then you can give abstracts, okay? But where there are links, it's easier when you do links, then we are able to see as evidence for publications. You report an innovation when it is an innovation, not a process. And again, we are saying an innovation is not like you're beginning 1st of July 2022, and you're expecting the innovation will be ready 31st of or 30th of June 2023. That may not be the case. An innovation you report as it happens. So if there wasn't, you didn't. If there was, you report. And that innovation could be a process that has taken place even several years back the line. But the time that is coming to fruition is this year.
Thank you.
Okay. Next.
Dennis.
Yeah, thank you. I'm a focal person coordinating your training institute. Yeah, mine was, yeah. I think I've gotten some answers partly, but this one was on publication, but mine was just about the research policy, IP policy. Do you have to attach the document when reporting?
That one we need evidence.
Okay, and then the other part is concerning the documentation of research. Do you also have to report maybe some of the, do you attach the abstracts of some of the projects initiated or that were presented during the DVET fairs and exhibition?
There are two things. If it is a project,
yes,
that has been initiated, you can give us the a brief version of the project as evidence.
Okay.
Or if there was particularly the approval, where it's being approved, we need to see that there is approval.
Okay.
Because if you just say the project was initiated, then how do we know that there was approval of that project to be initiated? So the evidence is the part of the project and the approval for the same. So that becomes a more tangible evidence. Because we don't want you to send us a 20-page proposal.
Okay.
Or a 30-page. So, because if we received 30-page, 20-page for everyone, I think that would be not useful. But you want the approval because that signifies the commencement. Or if there was a contract.
Okay.
If there is a contract, then that also is sufficient. You don't even need to send the proposal, but there's a contract that has been entered into for you to begin the project. That will be about 1 or 2 pages.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yegon, maybe we can revert a bit to the chat. I think we have a few minutes now. Maybe in the next 10 minutes, we should be done. And if there are still questions, we encourage you to put them on the chat. If somebody can just run through the chat to see the Q&A, if there are any questions that we have not touched, we can touch. And before we can give the last round of people to raise their hands and ask questions. Are you able to take us through the questions that could be there?
David can assist on that.
David, please proceed.
Most of them have been addressed. There is one Joseph Game who says, is the research licensing portal active? Yes, it is active. You visit the NACOSTI research license, you'll find it there, it's active. So there is one Barack from Special Economic Zone. He says he's quite new in this. I was appointed a focal person recently. My question is, going through the PC, you mentioned that the agencies eligible to implement this indicator can be found on your website. I've looked through the website. I can't see the list. My question is, is my organization eligible?
What is the organization?
Special Economic Zone.
EPZ?
No, it's not EPZ. They call it Special Economic Zone, CESA in
So we may need to maybe we can revert that. You check and then you revert.
Yeah.
It's there because I don't know. I can't tell. You can check from the list. Next.
Most of this has been addressed. I'm just looking at maybe those that haven't been. There is one who says, kindly explain better what is quadruple partnership. Yes.
Yes, quadruple a very difficult name. Is where you have 4 partners. Say, for example, they are coming together in one project. You have, say, a representative from a university, which is an academia research institution, a representative from there. You have a policy person there, then your institution, whatever it is there, industry there, or private sector there. Those are the kind of things that we are looking for. However, we accept even where you have a partnership of, if you have 4, excellent. If you have 2 or 1, that would still be excellent. But of course, that will be seen in the MOU that you have. So if you have 4 institutions coming together, then there is a collaborative agreement that brings together 4 institutions. And I've given you those examples of that. Policy, which is government, research institution, academia, private sector, or industry.
So another question by Catherine is, what documentary evidence is expected on human resource capacity?
The documentary evidence?
Yes, what kind of evidence? I think she's trying to ask the kind of evidence that they need to provide on human resource capacity.
I'm not sure that we're asking any evidence here, but it's the institution that is declaring, and if there is doubt, then people can be able to verify from the HR instruments. But we do not, I don't think we required copies of HR instrument, but it's just self-declaration. Because if you tell us you have 10 staff and you don't have 10 staff, see, now that's your self-declaration. If you tell us you have 50 staff and you have 60 staff, again, that is self-declaration. But what we are looking at for us, do you have evidence of people qualified to do research? And particularly if you are reporting on doing some research, then do you have the requisite human resource? And for our standards, we said bachelor's degree does not qualify for you to be a lead researcher or a principal investigator, but it qualifies you to be a research assistant. If you have master's degree and above, then you qualify to become a researcher. That is the minimum definition of that. So when you declare that you have at least 2 people with PhD or masters, then depending on the research activities that your institution is doing, then you're able to rate you based on that.
Then does NACOSTI charge to train MDAs at the institutional level? If yes, are there any charges? That is by Catherine Kinoti.
We have no charge charges. We just ask that you facilitate the people who may come to institution to train, if that is what you've done. So you facilitate them within the government regulations, but we don't charge for coming to train. And those who have trained can attest to the fact that we have not charged them. And they are here in this team.
So Stanley, Kulei, I think the others, Kamau is trying to answer them, and Margaret, but there is one. If evidences were submitted during quarter 1 and 2, should they be resubmitted again in subsequent quarters, or we only submit fresh evidences? That is by Kulei Stanley.
I think I've responded to that previously.
Yeah, so basically those are the ones that I've managed to pick out. The rest you had mentioned. Javan had also responded to a number of them.
Cyrus, do you have any comments? We are now about to close. It is 12:30. Cyrus, is there any comments you'd like to make?
Thank you, Chair. I think I can make a comment. There is first a question here. Maybe you can help us by Dr. Melchizedek Osowe. Are the indicators reviewed regularly in collaboration with MDA input, or is this a preserve of the institution across? If so, what is the next revision exercise?
Yeah, proceed. Just proceed and
yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think this is not a preserve of Lacoste. I think the purpose of this is to get your input, and the key aspect of this is to be able to do as best as possible. We understand that the targets are there. I think this is a discussion that the DG had tried to answer. I think it was a participant from National Cereals and Produce Board who also wanted to know whether we can be able to see how we can engage in this. So I agree. We are open to that. If you have them and you think the indicators that you think can help to build even in the next cycle, you can still use the email. You can put them in Word or any other format and send to pc@lacoste.go.ke. We'll respond to your request and confirmation of the same. Then once this has been discussed through, then you'll be able to respond. But in the same time and in the same breath, I would also want to say that we don't do it alone. We also work with the with the performance management unit that's responsible for performance contracting to ensure that as we bring in and as we engage, we look at the performance contracting in totality, not as an aspect of one arm or one aspect of another thing. So we looked at it in all open perspective. If they have used that data, we can accept, and we will continue to accept. So how best they will fit to ensure that all MDAs are aligned is what will now come out as the final output of this process. Thank you, Dr. Osowe. I think I'm good, but Chair, if there are any queries that some of those things that are coming in very strongly, there is a feeling that some institutions have been left so much behind, and possibly they are wondering whether they will be evaluated with people who started from quarter 1 when they are starting at quarter 4. So I think for those who have just come in and they are having their focal persons who have just been nominated, I think they can reach out to Lacoste, then Lacoste can see how they can assist, because they have missed quite a lot. There were trainings done in quarter 1. There were things that have been done. People have been helped to develop strategies. And the ones who are joining now, it's quite late, but it's better you report than leaving this target off. It's a common date target. So scoring 0 will have an impact on the entire PC. So just reach out to Lacoste and you see how best we can help you, ensuring that you're able to report before the year process. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Cyrus. I think you've done it very well. And the just to reemphasize that we are already engaging. Of course, this engagement is not in vain. The comments that you are making are very useful, and they'll help us to shape the next course of action. Margaret, are you there? Any comments, final thoughts?
Yes, I'm here. Yeah, thank you. I think the engagement has been very useful.
A bit low, you're a bit low.
How about now? Is it better?
I don't know if it's from my end, you're a bit low, but from my end, you're a bit low. But I don't know others.
Yeah, go on. How is it?
We can't hear you.
I think your internet, Margaret, where you are is a bit unstable. You are extremely low.
I think just like Tigers, we can
Wow.
engage. I don't know how else, because I've put it on the highest level of my device. I don't know how else to do it.
You are slightly better. You are slightly better now.
Is it better?
Yes, you are slightly better.
Okay. So I was just saying that this engagement has been very useful, and I think we have tried to respond to questions on that. Nevertheless, this is not the last time that we are going to engage. So I think one of the things that I have seen is recurring is the question of eligibility, and this perhaps it has been responded on that nearly all institutions have something to implement and report on this indicator, but we can engage individual institutions that still feel that they have no mandate to do the STI issues. Then I think the other issue that I have seen also recurring is on contextualized tools that would suit the circumstances of the institutions, particularly the PTIs, because there's one last question that is just coming on how they can report on projects, the innovations that are coming from students. I think that is something that can be discussed, and we see how to take into consideration all these issues that are particularly unique to some institutions that are either coming up or have mandates that would be a bit different from what we have captured in the current case. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Margaret, for your comments. I think they are well taken, and we'll, when we retreat to our own section, we can be able to see how best we can address those mandates. I don't know whether there's any final comment from anybody else. If there is, let me know before we close the meeting.
Probably we can give David and Esther.
David?
And Esther.
No. I just noticed there are some questions which came in after we had closed the question and answer session. So I don't know.
You can respond to them. That's okay. Yeah, just respond.
Fine. Okay.
Esther Kibitu.
Oh, David, I thought you were going to respond them loudly.
I read them loudly. Okay.
And answer them. Well, if you can't, then we'll answer, but you should be able to respond. We are a team.
Fine. There's one that says, suppose NACOSTI is called to train staff at their premises for those in Nairobi. How is NACOSTI going to facilitate within government regulations unless we move training outside Nairobi? That is by Barak. Then the other one was, there was to be a workshop at Egerton University. Any updates? I think that
There was
maybe
a
we might.
workshop. That's what, is it the one that DJ was talking about? That will come in the later in the year. That's around September, October, September there, but you'll get, you'll be informed appropriately.
Yeah, then the other one is, are we supposed to acquire a license for projects? I think that one, yes, you have to get licenses. No, but this is presented by trainees in the TVET fair exhibitions. Maybe you can help on that, Chair.
Licenses for what?
For projects presented by trainees.
We license research. We license research. We license research, not projects. So if it is a research, then we license. And the process I've told you is that you have your proposal, you take it to Institutional Scientific and Ethics Review Committee, then you send it to NACOSTI. And the NACOSTI will review. If you don't require any other things, then we give you a license to proceed to the field. If you require any other permissions from other organizations, then you need to get those other relevant permits.
Then I think the last one, would one be allowed to use your notes to train in a seminar?
Yes, we'll give you, we'll send you these materials, presentations, and we've done that in the past, haven't we? Can someone confirm whether we have given them out these materials? We have, yes.
I think those are the only ones managed to highlight. Thank you.
Jagon, you said, did you say there was anybody else?
We still have a few. David and Esther, the floor are yours.
So those two will be the final ones. So let's hear from them. Do you say David?
We have David Ndigwa.
David, proceed.
Mariam?
They don't seem to be there.
No, I'm here, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is CS Marion Nyepola from Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University of Science and Technology. I have two comments. One is that the general feeling on the floor is that NACOSTI should be able to give detailed feedback on the quarterly reports submitted by MDAs. But I want to just weigh in from both perspectives and say that in as much as we would like to know how we are performing, especially for the STI strategy, which I think was quite technical, I also want to believe an extensive analysis and the detailed feedback can only be available once evaluation is done, so that then there's a lot of time taken to go through these strategies and give us feedback. But I also feel that there is a bare minimum that the agency can organize and conduct so that we have this improvement on a continual basis, as opposed to getting feedback at the end of the financial year, perhaps after evaluation, for an activity or for, let me use non-conformity, which could have been addressed in a specific quarter had that feedback been given to the specific institution implementing the STI strategy. My second comment is on table 4, which was provided by the agency. And if you look at table 4, there is the provision that we report on actual operational expenditure. And at the beginning of the financial year, we found it difficult, like to even report on an actual operation expenditure, which is on an annual basis, but we are practically reporting for Q1. So I just want a confirmation. Is this column supposed to be appropriated to the 4 quarters, or how do we approach reporting on operational expenditure under table 4? Thank you.
I'll need to look at it again, but Marion, just to ask you a question.
Yes.
Did your institution report first quarter and
Yes,
second?
we did. Yes.
Did you get any feedback?
Yes, for both quarters.
Was it detailed?
No, it was not. It was an acknowledgement of receipt.
You didn't get a letter acknowledging and telling you you need to do 1 or 2 things. That didn't come through.
We received communication, but the specific details that I'm asking about was not there. If it was in a different communication, then we can track it.
No, I'm asking because there is there is the online response that will tell you we have received. I'm not
yes.
asking about that one. Was there an official letter signed by the Director General of NACOSTI?
Yes. There was.
There was.
Yes.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know, whether you received that, because we wrote to all the institutions and I wanted to find out whether there's, because that's also feedback that now you received.
Yes, which
So there could be a feedback that you didn't receive.
No, I'm speaking from the spirit that has come from the other institutions, that people appear that they want to know more about their performance in terms of whether the strategy was meeting the threshold, if there were specific issues which could have been addressed earlier, because now you see we're in the 3rd quarter and people still have complications, or so to speak, which could have been addressed in Q1 and Q2.
Okay.
So it's just a general comment. It's just a general comment.
Thank you very much. Looking at table 4, and the first column is total recurrent expenditure. Second, annual operational expenditure. Then the third is actual operational expenditure. So if you are feeling that in Q1, you will not do actual, but you will give the operational, okay? Because at the first quarter, that's at the beginning of the financial year, you will indicate this is the operational budget. But the actual expenditure will come at the end of the financial year when you report at that point. So you'll be able to see if you are allocated 25 million, did you spend 25 million? Okay, because then the next is total expenditure on R&D. That is now when you begin to calculate and you get your percentage. So what you'll have done in first year, you are able to tell us the recurrent expenditure because it will be in the printed estimates, the annual operational expenditure, you can also get it, but the actual, this will report at the end. That is the 4th quarter, because now that is what you spent. And then now you do your calculation. I don't know whether Marion, that helps, and others. Are we still there?
Yes, you can hear you, John.
Okay. So I want us to close the meeting. It's now 12:48. And before I ask Cyrus to close with a word of prayer, I want to make a few comments. Cyrus will close with a word of prayer. First is to thank all of you for finding time to join and this session. I must say that we have received extremely very useful feedback. This information that we have received from you will go a long way in making us to be a better institution in terms of responding to the needs of the MDAs. Every comment that you have made, we take it and we'll review each of those comments. We have recorded this and we will go through as a team and see what needs to be done moving forward. This engagement, of course, was meant to help you so that those who may be feeling out of course, they can go back to be on course. And I can assure you, if you report well in the third and fourth quarter, you can still score a very high score, even up to about 100%. Again, to give you an assurance that before we give you a final score, we will have another engagement like this, but we will have given you your feedback and give you an opportunity to tell us, because we do not want a situation where we'll post the performance contracting that you scored 80% when you feel like you deserve 99%. And if you have reasons to say your 80 should be 99, we'll give you that opportunity to tell us that your 80 should actually be 99 or should actually be 100. And if there are reasons good enough, we shall still do so. That's an assurance from us. All you are required to do is to do your best as we do our best from our end. Otherwise, again, thank you very much. And we are free to engage us offline. You can write to us very specifically if you want to know certain details that you think you should have been given and you are not given, we'll be free to do so. Otherwise, again, I say thank you and looking forward to hearing from you or even meeting. I said we are planning for training for the Institutional Ethics Review Committee persons, some who may be potentially want to establish these committees. Please, when we put up the call, please feel free to indicate to us that you would like to participate so that you can build your capacity, so that you can be able from there move forward to establish your own institutional scientific and ethics review committee. With those remarks, I want to say thank you and ask Cyrus to close this session with a word of prayer. Cyrus, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make a small comment, maybe if you allow me before you pray. There's this aspect of communication, people not receiving the feedback, maybe possibly for those who have not received either the first, the second, and the third quarter feedback in terms of an official letter, not the email, the official letter from the DG. They can send an email to PC at NACOST saying which quarter they have not received, so that we can know where the communication breakdown is. Is it the email that we are using, or is it the letters are not reaching the institutions, so that we can be able to address the problem? So let's pray. Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, we thank you, glorify the name. We are thankful for this opportunity that you have given us as NACOST to engage our stakeholders and to help us as we discuss and as we grow, that we may be able to develop not only individuals, institutions, but also countrywide in terms of the STMI. We pray for wisdom, we pray for understanding. We pray that this, as we work, that we may be able to work for the good and for the better of this nation. We commit ourselves and our work and our institutions unto thee and our families. As we come before thee, we pray that you be with us. As we depart, be with us, keep us safe. In Jesus'